settle into a quiet space, allowing your mind to drift gently into the realm of ancient stories. Tonight, we embark on a journey into a world both mesmerizing and strange, a world where gods walk among mortals, where joy can turn to madness in an instant, and where the intoxicating power of wine and ritual shapes lives and fates alike. Our focus is on a god unlike any other, a deity whose very essence is intertwined with both celebration and chaos, liberation and peril. This is the story of Dionysus, the god of wine, ecstasy, and madness, whose presence can awaken both delight and fear. Imagine, if you will, the soft rustling of leaves in a distant forest, the low murmur of voices carried across a hillside, and the faint scent of grapes and wild herbs mingling in the air. Dionysus' world is alive, vibrant, and yet, just beneath its surface, there lies an unpredictability that keeps even the bravest hearts on edge. From the very beginning, Dionysus' life has been unusual, marked by mystery and divine intervention. He is a god born of both mortal and immortal, a child of Zeus, king of the gods, and Semele, a mortal princess whose story is one of desire, danger, and an extraordinary destiny. In this opening chapter of his life, we find themes that will echo throughout his myths: vulnerability and power, joy and tragedy, freedom and restraint. As we explore his story, allow yourself to move slowly through each detail, imagining the world as it might have seemed to those who first whispered these tales around flickering hearths in the long nights of antiquity. Dionysus is a god of paradox. He embodies delight and excess, yet he is also a figure of caution, reminding mortals and immortals alike that the line between ecstasy and destruction is thin and fragile. There is a softness in the way his myths begin, often with gentle care and protection, yet there is also an undercurrent of tension, a quiet sense that forces beyond human control are at work. This duality is central to understanding Dionysus, and it shapes every story that follows, from the innocence of his early life to the wild, frenzied celebrations that would later define his worship. Picture the rolling hills of ancient Greece, the scattered groves where nymphs dance lightly in the shadows, and the calm rivers reflecting the moon's soft glow. It is in these spaces that Dionysus moves, a figure both familiar and otherworldly, whose presence can bring joy, wonder, and a sense of awe that borders on the unsettling. Even before his birth, his life is touched by danger and divine intrigue. His mother, Semele, drawn to Zeus' irresistible power, faced consequences beyond mortal comprehension, reminding us that Dionysus' story is as much about the fragility of life as it is about the intoxicating sweetness of immortality. And yet, in the wake of tragedy, the god's presence emerges, a being who carries both the beauty of life's pleasures and the shadow of its uncertainties. This introduction is not merely a prelude to exciting adventures or dramatic tales, it is a meditation on contrasts, mortality and divinity, joy and sorrow, order and chaos. Allow yourself to feel the calm rhythm of the unfolding narrative, like a gentle heartbeat that carries you deeper into the mythological world. In this journey, we will explore not only the life and deeds of Dionysus but also the broader world he inhabits. From the forests where he wandered as a child, shielded from Herod's wrath, to the city streets where his followers celebrated in ecstatic dances, his influence stretches across every facet of human experience. He teaches lessons about indulgence, restraint, and the delicate balance between freedom and control. Yet, at the same time, he reminds us that even in the most joyous moments, the seeds of chaos may quietly take root. As you listen and imagine, picture the flickering torchlight of ancient ceremonies, the gentle clinking of cups filled with wine, and the soft murmur of voices raised in song and devotion. The world of Dionysus is alive with sensory detail, yet it is also a place where the mind can wander safely into contemplation and rest. So, as we begin this tale, allow the story to unfold slowly, like a vine curling gently in the sun. Let the images form softly in your imagination, without urgency or pressure, and embrace the contrasts that define Dionysus, the beauty and the danger, the ecstasy and the calm, the mortal and the divine. This is not merely a story to be told, it is an experience, a journey into a mythological landscape that is both enchanting and slightly unsettling, perfectly suited for the quiet hours when the world is still, and your mind is ready to drift into reflection and sleep. Tonight, as you listen, you are not just a passive observer, You are a traveler moving through an ancient world of divine power, human desire, and the intoxicating interplay of light and shadow. Let each detail sink in, each scene unfold at its own pace, and allow yourself to be carried gently by the rhythm of the story. Dionysus' tale is one of contrasts and surprises, of gentle moments and sudden bursts of wonder. By the time we reach the next chapter, you will already feel a subtle shift, as if you are stepping further into a world where the ordinary rules of life give way to something far more mysterious, beautiful, and profound.
Dionysus is a god unlike any other, a figure whose very essence is a delicate balance between joy and chaos, celebration and danger. To understand him, we must first step back and consider who he truly is, not just as a deity, but as a symbol, a myth, and a presence that has fascinated humans for centuries. Imagine for a moment the quiet hills and sun-dappled valleys of ancient Greece, the soft breeze carrying the scent of wild grapes and olive trees. In these serene landscapes, the extraordinary life of Dionysus begins, a life intertwined with both mortals and immortals, a life that defies simple understanding. He is the son of Zeus, the king of gods, whose power and authority are unmatched, and Semele, a mortal princess whose beauty and courage left an indelible mark on the tapestry of mythology. From the very beginning, Dionysus embodies contradictions. He is both human and divine, fragile and invincible, playful yet capable of inspiring fear. His dual nature shapes every story that surrounds him, and it is through these stories that we begin to glimpse the true depth of his character. While many gods possess great power, Dionysus is unique in how he engages directly with the human experience. He is intimately connected to our joys, our passions, and our vulnerabilities. At the same time, he is unpredictable, a force of nature that can sweep through lives and communities, bringing both ecstasy and disorder. Picture a quiet vineyard at twilight, the sky painted in soft purples and oranges, the air filled with the faint aroma of ripening grapes. Here, Dionysus might wander, unseen, yet deeply present, his influence touching everything with subtle power. Unlike gods who dwell primarily on Olympus, separated from the mortal world by distance and decorum, Dionysus thrives in the spaces where humans live, work, and celebrate. He is not content with distant observation, he joins in the revelry, he dances in the forests and hills, he inspires music, poetry, and laughter. His presence is felt in the warmth of wine shared among friends, in the exhilaration of music and dance, and in moments of surrender to pleasure and abandon. And yet, this same presence carries with it the risk of madness, the shadow that lurks behind intoxication and ecstasy. It is this duality, the gift and the danger, that makes Dionysus both beloved and feared. As you imagine these scenes, allow yourself to feel the gentle pull of wonder, a calm curiosity about the ways in which one god could hold so many contradictions within a single form. Dionysus' story also begins with tension and peril. His birth was not a simple event but one marked by divine intrigue and mortal vulnerability. Zeus' love for Semele drew the attention of Hera, his jealous wife, whose wrath would shape the early life of the god. Even in these earliest moments, we see the interplay of protection and danger, care and destruction, that defines Dionysus' existence. He is saved and nurtured in secret, hidden away from those who would harm him, yet from the very beginning, his life is intertwined with the extraordinary. There is a sense that his path, though guided by divine intervention, is unpredictable, filled with surprises, and that his influence will ripple outward in ways no one could anticipate. Picture a child hidden among ancient groves, the soft sunlight filtering through leaves, nymphs whispering protective chants, and the quiet watchfulness of the natural world. This is the environment that nurtures Dionysus, one that shapes his character and prepares him for the complex, sometimes perilous interactions to come. To fully understand Dionysus, we must also consider the symbols that accompany him: grapes, vines, wine, masks, and musical instruments. Each is not just a prop but a reflection of his essence. Grapes symbolize growth and transformation, the subtle transition from innocence to maturity, from stillness to movement. Wine embodies both delight and danger, the capacity to inspire joy or to overwhelm, to lift the spirit or cloud the mind. Masks and music represent the fluidity of identity, the freedom to explore different facets of the self, and the embrace of creativity and imagination. Through these symbols, we glimpse the multifaceted nature of Dionysus, a god who exists not only in myth but in the experiences of those who honor, fear, or celebrate him. Allow yourself to picture these objects, their colors, textures, and scents, as they weave together to form the atmosphere of Dionysian life. Dionysus' personality is further revealed through the way he interacts with mortals and immortals alike. He is charming and persuasive, often drawing individuals into experiences they could not have imagined on their own. He is capable of great generosity, offering gifts of joy, inspiration, and liberation, yet he is also capable of vengeance, responding to disrespect or disbelief with lessons that are as frightening as they are unforgettable. Through these stories, we see the essence of Dionysus, a god who challenges boundaries, who invites humans to explore the edges of their own consciousness, and who exists in the liminal space between safety and risk, order and chaos. As you imagine Dionysus' presence in this world, picture him moving softly through forests and villages, invisible yet deeply felt, a whisper of the extraordinary in the ordinary, a reminder that the divine often appears in unexpected forms. His story, though filled with drama and sometimes violence, is also a story of beauty, freedom, and the exhilaration of life lived fully, even in the shadow of uncertainty. Allow this understanding to settle gently, like the last rays of sunlight over a quiet landscape, preparing you for the next chapter, where we will follow Dionysus from his mysterious birth through the adventures and challenges that shape him into the god of wine, madness, and transformation that history remembers.
The story of Dionysus' birth is unlike that of any other god, a tale of wonder, tragedy, and divine intervention that sets the stage for the extraordinary life he would lead. Imagine the quiet beauty of ancient Greece, the soft slopes of hills dotted with olive trees, and the gentle murmur of a river winding through the valleys. In such a serene setting, the events that gave birth to Dionysus unfold like a dream, simultaneously delicate and intense, ordinary and otherworldly. His mother, Semele, was a mortal woman of remarkable beauty and courage, whose life would be forever intertwined with the most powerful of gods, Zeus. Their love, passionate and fateful, would spark a sequence of events that carried consequences beyond human comprehension. Zeus, drawn irresistibly to Semele, could not resist her charm or the brightness of her spirit. Yet their union, like so much in the world of gods, was fraught with danger. Hera, Zeus' wife, possessed a jealousy that was both deep and cunning. It was this jealousy that would bring tragedy into Semele's life, testing her courage and leaving her vulnerable to forces far beyond her control. As you imagine Semele's experience, picture her standing on a hillside, bathed in golden sunlight, feeling both awe and fear, a mortal caught between the ordinary world and the overwhelming presence of divinity. Her heart carried desire, her mind carried uncertainty, and in that delicate tension, the stage was set for a birth that would be extraordinary in every sense. The miracle of Dionysus' birth is entwined with both life and death. When Hera's plots forced Semele to demand proof of Zeus' divine form, the mortal woman could not withstand the full glory of his power. The flames of divinity consumed her, leaving her life extinguished in an instant. Yet from this tragedy emerged hope, persistence, and the extraordinary. Zeus, unwilling to lose his child, acted with both decisiveness and tenderness. He rescued the unborn Dionysus, carrying him to safety, sewing him into his own thigh until the time was right for birth. In this act, we witness the unique nature of Dionysus, a god born of mortal vulnerability and immortal care, a child whose very existence bridges the worlds of humans and gods. Imagine Zeus, solemn yet gentle, cradling the miraculous life within himself, a quiet tension blending grief, hope, and anticipation in a moment suspended between worlds. Dionysus' birth was thus a blend of wonder and strangeness. Emerging from Zeus' thigh, he entered the world not through ordinary means but through a miracle that symbolized both resilience and transformation. Even as a newborn, Dionysus carried within him the duality that would define his life, the sweetness of joy and the shadow of danger, the promise of liberation and the potential for chaos. His early existence was marked by secrecy and protection, for Hera's wrath remained a looming threat. He was hidden away, nurtured by divine care and the quiet guardianship of the nymphs, who moved through forests and glades, their voices like soft winds whispering lullabies. Picture a newborn Dionysus, cradled in the arms of unseen protectors, the forest alive with gentle sounds, each leaf and ripple of water a sentinel watching over him. This early life, shrouded in mystery, was the foundation upon which his character and power would grow. Even as a child, Dionysus' presence was remarkable. He was no ordinary infant. His eyes, bright and penetrating, seemed to hold both knowledge and innocence. The nymphs who cared for him taught him the secrets of the natural world, the rhythm of rivers, the rustle of leaves, the hidden sweetness of fruits and herbs. They showed him the ways in which life could be celebrated, yet they also guided him gently to respect the dangers that lay beneath joy and pleasure. This dual education, so intimate with nature and divine wisdom, prepared Dionysus for the complexities of life among mortals and gods alike. Imagine him wandering lightly through sun-dappled groves, his laughter mingling with the songs of birds, yet with an aura that hinted at the extraordinary path he would follow. The story of his birth is also a story of contrasts. Life and death exist side by side, joy and tragedy intermingle, mortal vulnerability meets divine power. These contrasts are central to Dionysus' character, influencing every encounter, every myth, and every celebration that would later be associated with him. From the very beginning, he embodies the unpredictable, intoxicating, and sometimes unsettling nature of existence. He is a god whose life begins with both loss and wonder, teaching us that even in moments of vulnerability, extraordinary possibilities can unfold. As we let this scene settle, picture the quiet aftermath of Dionysus' miraculous birth, the soft glow of twilight over the hills, the whisper of the wind through trees, and the gentle, protective presence of those who nurture him. Even in the shadow of tragedy, there is a promise, a gentle pulse of potential and power. This is the Dionysus who will grow to walk the earth, to inspire awe, celebration, and caution in equal measure. His birth is not merely an event, it is a meditation on the delicate balance between life's fragility and its extraordinary potential, a story to carry quietly in the mind as we prepare to follow his journey into the mysteries, celebrations, and inevitable madness that lie ahead. As Dionysus grew, his childhood was anything but ordinary. Hidden away from the wrath of Hera, he was raised in secrecy by caring nymphs, in forests and groves far from the eyes of both mortals and gods who might wish him harm. Imagine a landscape of soft, rolling hills, dappled sunlight filtering through leaves, and a gentle breeze carrying the scent of wildflowers and ripening grapes. It is in this serene yet mysterious environment that Dionysus began to develop the qualities that would define him, a sense of wonder, an intimate connection to nature, and a subtle awareness of the extraordinary forces shaping his life. The quiet forests, shimmering rivers, and hidden glades were not merely backdrops, they were teachers, shaping the young god in ways that words can scarcely describe. From his earliest moments, Dionysus displayed a unique awareness of the world around him. He listened to the songs of birds with attention, understood the rhythm of the rivers, and marveled at the delicate interplay of light and shadow among the trees. These were not simple amusements, they were lessons in balance, observation, and the subtle powers of life. The nymphs who guided him were patient and gentle, teaching him how to move silently through the woods, to understand the hidden patterns of nature, and to respect the delicate boundaries between safety and danger. Picture him walking barefoot on soft moss, feeling the pulse of the earth beneath him, a smile of quiet curiosity lighting his young face. Even in play, Dionysus' connection to the world was profound, hinting at the extraordinary role he would later play among mortals and gods alike. This period of hiding and nurturing was also a time of profound growth, not only in body but in spirit. Dionysus' experiences in these secret places cultivated a deep sense of empathy, intuition, and creativity. He learned that the world is filled with both beauty and peril, and that joy is often inseparable from risk. The forests, with their rustling leaves and hidden glades, taught him patience. The rivers, with their gentle currents, taught him flow and flexibility. Even the creatures of the woods, the deer, the birds, and the small animals, became part of his education, companions in a childhood shaped by quiet observation and gentle wonder. Imagine a young god discovering a hidden waterfall, its waters sparkling in the sunlight, or chasing the shadows of butterflies across a sunlit clearing, each moment leaving an imprint on his developing understanding of life and its mysteries. As Dionysus matured in these secluded places, he began to exhibit traits that set him apart from ordinary children, even other divine children. He possessed an intuitive understanding of human emotions and the subtleties of social interaction. Though he was hidden from most mortals, he could sense their joys and fears from afar, a subtle awareness that would later make him both beloved and feared. He also demonstrated an early talent for music, dance, and celebration, expressions of joy that would become central to his identity as the god of ecstasy and wine. Picture him plucking reeds from the riverbank to fashion a flute, filling the forest with gentle melodies that ripple through the trees, inviting the animals to gather, lulled by his music, yet also hinting at the power he holds even in these tender, formative moments. The hidden life Dionysus led also gave him resilience. Despite being a god, he experienced forms of vulnerability and dependence uncommon among immortals. This vulnerability, coupled with the nurturing care of the nymphs, allowed him to develop a unique balance of strength and sensitivity. He learned the importance of trust, the value of protection, and the subtle lessons of discretion and patience. These qualities, honed in secret, would serve him well as he navigated the complex interactions of gods, mortals, and his own followers in later myths. Imagine him perched on a moss-covered rock, eyes closed, feeling the sun's warmth on his face, the wind whispering lessons in patience and awareness, a young god quietly absorbing the rhythm of the world around him. Even in these secluded moments, there were hints of the extraordinary adventures and chaos that would later define Dionysus' life. The natural world itself seemed to respond to him, the wind carrying faint whispers of the future, the forests alive with a subtle awareness of his presence. It was in these quiet hours, wandering glades or floating along calm rivers, that Dionysus first learned the duality that would follow him, the ability to inspire delight and frenzy, the power to uplift and unsettle, the capacity for both calm joy and ecstatic madness. He moved between worlds even as a child, straddling the line between ordinary life and the extraordinary, a presence both gentle and electric. As we imagine these scenes, allow yourself to feel the calm rhythm of the forest, the soft glow of sunlight on leaves, the gentle rustle of life all around. Dionysus' childhood teaches us about the quiet shaping of greatness, about the nurturing influence of nature and caretakers, and about the early signs of a life destined to intertwine with human experience in profound, often unpredictable ways. By the time he steps into adolescence and eventually into the world of mortals and gods, he is already a figure of complexity, playful yet profound, joyous yet dangerous, gentle yet capable of remarkable power. The forests and groves that nurtured him remain a silent witness to the beginnings of his journey, echoing with laughter, music, and the soft pulse of life. Even as he grows and the shadows of destiny stretch toward him, these secret places leave a permanent mark on his character, preparing him for the intoxicating, chaotic, and transformative path that lies ahead. This is the Dionysus who will later inspire festivals, madness, and liberation, the child who wandered through glades and rivers, learning the secrets of the natural world, slowly discovering the extraordinary being he was always meant to become. As Dionysus grew into adolescence, his connection to the world around him deepened, and with it came discoveries that would define his divine essence. Among the most transformative of these discoveries was the gift of wine, a creation that would become both his signature and a symbol of the duality he embodies. Wine, though a simple substance at first glance, represents much more than mere drink. It is a liquid that can lift the spirit, spark joy, and inspire creativity, but it also carries within it the potential for chaos, loss of control, and even madness. Imagine the slow ripening of grapes in sun-drenched vineyards, their skins glistening with dew in the early morning light, a process both delicate and miraculous. It is here, in these serene yet vibrant landscapes, that Dionysus' influence begins to unfold in a way that touches mortals deeply and permanently. The story of wine is closely tied to the essence of Dionysus himself. Just as he bridges the mortal and divine worlds, wine bridges the ordinary and extraordinary, turning everyday moments into experiences that are heightened, transformed, and sometimes unpredictable. In myths, he is said to have discovered the secrets of fermenting grapes, observing the natural processes of growth and decay, and harnessing them into something that could bring pleasure or peril. Picture Dionysus in a quiet grove, surrounded by clusters of purple grapes, carefully tasting the juice, noticing its sweetness and potential, the very air around him thick with the scent of earth and fruit. Even in this moment of calm, there is a hint of the power that he wields, the ability to transform reality, perception, and emotion with a single sip. Wine, like Dionysus himself, has many faces. It is a companion to joy, a spark for music, poetry, and laughter. It encourages human connection, the soft intimacy of shared cups under starlit skies, and the gentle abandon of ritual celebration. At the same time, it reminds mortals of their vulnerability, of the thin line between pleasure and excess. This duality mirrors the nature of Dionysus. He is both generous and unpredictable, gentle and wild, a force that delights as much as it unsettles. Imagine a gathering in a quiet village long ago, the soft clinking of cups and murmurs of conversation, laughter rising in gentle waves. In this scene, the presence of Dionysus is subtle yet undeniable, the invisible thread weaving together joy, celebration, and the potential for something extraordinary to occur. In the myths, wine is never just a drink, it is a vehicle for transformation. Those who partake in it with reverence and care may experience inspiration, insight, and a deepened sense of connection to both the divine and the natural world. Yet those who indulge recklessly may fall into confusion, frenzy, or despair. This lesson was not lost on Dionysus, who understood that the same force that brings liberation can also sow disorder. As you imagine these stories, picture the careful rhythms of ancient rituals, the slow pouring of wine into ceremonial cups, the soft chanting of followers, the gentle sway of bodies in dance, each movement in harmony with the music and the natural world. The experience is both calming and powerful, a sensory journey that mirrors the very essence of Dionysus. The gift of wine also holds a symbolic significance that goes beyond its immediate effects. It embodies the cycle of life: growth, harvest, transformation, and renewal. The grapes, once small and fragile, mature in the sun, are crushed and fermented, and finally emerge as a liquid capable of altering perception. In this process, Dionysus mirrors the natural rhythms of existence, teaching mortals and gods alike about the delicate balance between creation and decay, pleasure and risk, freedom and consequence. Imagine him walking through the vineyards, his touch gentle on the vines, observing the subtle changes in color and texture, the quiet miracle of nature unfolding around him. This connection to life cycles reinforces his role as a god who embodies both delight and danger, a being whose presence is transformative in ways both profound and intimate. In addition to its symbolic power, wine plays a central role in the rituals and celebrations associated with Dionysus. From intimate gatherings to grand festivals, it becomes a medium through which humans and gods connect, a shared experience that can elevate ordinary moments into the extraordinary. Picture a quiet evening, torches casting soft light across a grove, the air filled with the aroma of ripe grapes and herbs, and the gentle hum of music carried by wind and water. In this setting, the presence of Dionysus is tangible, yet calm, a guide, a teacher, and a companion in the delicate dance between joy and moderation, ecstasy and reflection. The wine he offers is more than a drink, it is an invitation to experience life fully, to embrace its pleasures while remaining mindful of its perils. As we reflect on this gift, we see that Dionysus' relationship with wine is not merely about indulgence. It is about transformation, awareness, and the gentle tension between restraint and abandon. It is a reminder that joy, like life itself, is most profound when approached with care and understanding, and that even the most ordinary substances can carry extraordinary significance when touched by the divine. Imagine the soft glow of moonlight falling across a vineyard, the quiet rustle of leaves, and the gentle sparkle of wine in a cup, an image that lingers, calm and immersive, as the story of Dionysus unfolds further, preparing us for the adventures, madness, and celebrations that lie ahead.
Dionysus is not just the god of wine and celebration, he is also the god of madness, ecstasy, and the unpredictable forces that lie within both mortals and nature. To understand this aspect of him, imagine the world as it might appear through his eyes, a place where joy and chaos exist side by side, where ordinary life can suddenly shift into moments of wonder or frenzy. There is a rhythm to these transformations, gentle yet powerful, like the ebb and flow of a river or the rise and fall of a wind through a forest. Dionysus embodies these currents, moving among mortals and gods alike, bringing both liberation and disquiet, delight and danger. The connection between Dionysus and madness is central to his identity. In mythology, he is often portrayed as a god who frees the mind from conventional constraints, encouraging mortals to experience life beyond the ordinary. This liberation is not always gentle. It can be overwhelming, intoxicating, and even frightening. Imagine a quiet village in ancient Greece, the sun dipping behind distant hills, and a procession of Dionysus followers appearing like whispers among the shadows. Their dancing, singing, and laughter create a rhythm that pulls the mind out of its familiar boundaries, opening it to new sensations, new awareness, and the untamed beauty of existence. This is the essence of Dionysian madness, not mere chaos, but a transformation, a breaking down of ordinary perception to reveal deeper truths. Madness under Dionysus' influence is not always destructive. It is often described as ecstatic, liberating, and even sacred. The god teaches that there is power in surrender, in letting go of control and embracing the unpredictable. When mortals lose themselves in his influence, they sometimes discover hidden strengths, creativity, or insights that are otherwise inaccessible. Picture a person standing alone in a grove, listening to the gentle, hypnotic sound of a flute, feeling the wind stir their hair, and realizing that the boundaries between themselves and the world around them have softened. It is here, in this delicate threshold between control and release, that Dionysus works his quiet magic, reminding us that true understanding often comes when we step beyond the ordinary. At the same time, Dionysus' connection to madness serves as a cautionary reminder. Ecstasy without awareness can tip into frenzy, and delight can transform into despair. Many myths illustrate the consequences of disrespecting or misunderstanding him. Mortals who ignored his presence, denied his power, or attempted to control him often faced terrifying outcomes. Their experiences were lessons for others, a subtle warning that the forces of life and divinity are not meant to be constrained entirely. Imagine the quiet tension in a shadowed forest as a procession of maenads, women devoted to Dionysus, dance in patterns both beautiful and unsettling. Their movements are mesmerizing, a mixture of grace and wildness, demonstrating that freedom and madness are intertwined, delicate, and potent. Dionysus' influence extends beyond individuals to communities and cultures. His rituals, festivals, and celebrations invite participants to step out of ordinary routines, to connect with one another through shared experience, music, and movement. This collective immersion in ecstasy fosters a sense of unity, connection, and transcendence, even as it hints at the precarious edge between celebration and chaos. Imagine a village under the soft glow of torches, laughter and music filling the night air, bodies swaying in harmony with a rhythm older than memory itself. In such moments, Dionysus' presence is palpable, a gentle but powerful reminder that joy and madness, liberation and danger, are often inseparable. The god's association with madness also reflects deeper truths about human psychology. Dionysus exposes the parts of ourselves that we usually keep hidden, the desires, fears, and instincts that lie beneath the surface. By encountering his influence, mortals are invited to confront these inner aspects, to understand their own capacity for ecstasy, creativity, and sometimes destruction. This confrontation is rarely straightforward. It is subtle, often slow, and experienced in small moments of realization, movement, or release. Picture a solitary figure, sitting quietly by a river, noticing the reflection of moonlight on rippling water, feeling a sudden rush of emotion that is both exhilarating and disorienting. This is Dionysus' touch, a reminder that the mind and spirit are alive, vibrant, and capable of experiences beyond conventional comprehension. Even the god's followers, the maenads and satyrs, reflect this duality of ecstasy and madness. Their rituals, full of music, dance, and intoxicating energy, are both joyous and disorienting. They embody the freedom Dionysus offers and the potential risks of surrendering completely to his influence. Through these stories, we see that madness is not merely a state of disorder but a transformative experience, a glimpse into the unpredictable and sacred dimensions of life. The soft murmur of leaves, the distant rush of water, and the gentle movement of bodies in celebration all create an atmosphere where the ordinary rules of existence are softened, making room for the extraordinary. As we contemplate Dionysus and madness, it is important to embrace the gentle balance of his influence. He reminds us that freedom and restraint, joy and danger, are not opposites but parts of a whole. In his presence, we learn that life's richness comes from engaging fully with both delight and risk, from moving gracefully between control and surrender. Imagine the moon rising over a quiet grove, the soft glow illuminating the shadows of leaves and branches, as if the world itself holds its breath, waiting to reveal the subtle magic that lies just beyond ordinary perception. This is Dionysus' gift and his lesson, to awaken the mind and spirit, to invite ecstasy, and to do so with awareness, reverence, and calm curiosity.
As Dionysus' presence grew among mortals and gods, he gathered around him a devoted group of followers, each drawn to his power, his charisma, and the intoxicating freedom he offered. These were the Maenads, wild and devoted women who danced and sang in ecstatic celebration, and the Satyrs, mischievous and untamed creatures who moved between the worlds of nature and myth. Together, they formed a vibrant and enigmatic community, devoted to the god of wine, ecstasy, and transformation. Imagine a quiet forest glade, the soft glow of moonlight spilling through the trees, and a group of figures moving rhythmically to the pulse of unseen drums, their laughter and song mingling with the gentle rustle of leaves. In these gatherings, the world feels alive in new and surprising ways, as though every sound, scent, and movement carries the subtle signature of Dionysus himself. The Maenads, whose name means the raving ones, were perhaps the most enigmatic of Dionysus' followers. They were women who surrendered themselves completely to the god's influence, leaving behind ordinary concerns and societal expectations. In their dances and rituals, they experienced a liberation that was both exhilarating and unsettling, a direct encounter with the divine energy of Dionysus. Imagine them spinning gracefully in the moonlight, their hair and garments flowing like water, feet moving lightly on the forest floor, hearts beating in rhythm with the music. Their ecstasy is not chaotic for its own sake. It is a profound connection to the rhythms of nature, the cycles of life, and the divine presence that moves invisibly among them. Satyrs, on the other hand, were playful, earthy creatures, half human and half goat, who delighted in mischief, music, and revelry. They followed Dionysus with a sense of exuberant curiosity, embodying the joy and unpredictability of life itself. Picture them leaping across stones in a gently flowing stream, their laughter ringing softly through the trees, their flutes and pipes creating melodies that ripple through the night air. These companions were a reflection of Dionysus' own duality, part structured and clever, part wild and untamed, all infused with an irrepressible life force. Their presence amplified the sense of transformation that the god encouraged, showing that liberation often comes through play, music, and the gentle dissolution of ordinary boundaries. Together, Maenads and Satyrs illustrate the profound contrast that Dionysus embodies: freedom and structure, ecstasy and awareness, joy and danger. The rituals they engaged in were not mere entertainment, they were sacred acts, a form of communion with the god who presided over both delight and madness. Imagine a hidden glade where the air vibrates with soft chants and rhythms, where shadows and moonlight intermingle, creating an almost dreamlike atmosphere. The participants move in harmony with these natural and divine rhythms, losing themselves in the gentle swirl of motion, song, and sensation. It is here that the ordinary world recedes, replaced by a liminal space where time, perception, and the boundaries of self are transformed. The followers of Dionysus were also witnesses to his subtle lessons. Through their experiences of ecstasy, they learned about the delicate balance between indulgence and restraint, between freedom and responsibility. Even in the height of their dancing and celebration, there was an unspoken understanding that the power they were encountering was not to be taken lightly. This awareness, soft and unobtrusive, mirrored the quiet wisdom that Dionysus imparted in every myth, that liberation, joy, and madness are gifts, but they come with responsibilities and consequences. Imagine a Maenad pausing in her dance to listen to the forest, the rustling of leaves carrying whispered guidance, the moonlight revealing the intricate patterns of shadows across her face, a moment of stillness within ecstasy, reflection within movement. These followers also helped to transmit Dionysus' influence to the wider world. As they traveled through villages, forests, and hills, they brought with them the rhythms, songs, and practices of their god. Small gatherings, festivals, and even solitary celebrations became infused with the essence of Dionysus, as mortals encountered traces of the god's presence in music, dance, and ritual. Picture a quiet village at dusk, the smell of crushed grapes in the air, a soft melody carried on the wind, and villagers pausing to feel a strange sense of exhilaration and liberation, a gentle stirring that hints at forces larger than themselves. These moments, subtle yet profound, are how Dionysus' influence spread, quietly touching hearts and minds, inspiring both joy and introspection. The quiet power of these followers also lies in their connection to the natural world. Forests, rivers, and hills were not just backdrops, they were active participants in the rituals, shaping the experiences of the maenads and satyrs and amplifying the god's presence. Imagine a soft breeze carrying the scent of wild grapes and herbs, leaves trembling gently as if in response to the rhythm of music, and the moonlight reflecting off a tranquil stream where the followers gather. Every element of nature seems attuned to Dionysus, and through his devoted companions, the world itself becomes a stage for his presence. As we picture these scenes, it becomes clear that Dionysus' followers are more than mere attendants. They are extensions of his power and essence, embodiments of the delicate balance between freedom and discipline, joy and awareness, ecstasy and calm reflection. Their presence, their rituals, and their music all convey the subtle teachings of the god who inspires both delight and caution. Allow the images of dancing maenads, leaping satyrs, and tranquil forests to settle in your mind, as soft and rhythmic as the gentle pulse of a heartbeat. This is the world Dionysus creates through his companions, a place where ordinary life becomes extraordinary, where freedom and madness coexist in harmony, and where the mysteries of joy, nature, and divinity can be experienced in their full, immersive richness. As Dionysus' influence spread, he became not only a god of personal ecstasy but also a powerful presence in cities and kingdoms across the ancient world. His arrival in human communities was never subtle. Unlike some gods who remained distant on lofty mountains or in hidden temples, Dionysus moved among mortals, often arriving unannounced, bringing with him celebrations, rituals, and transformations that would forever alter the lives of those he encountered. Imagine the quiet streets of a city at twilight, torches flickering against stone walls, the faint scent of crushed grapes and incense in the air. Suddenly, soft music begins to drift through the streets, a flute, a drum, a rhythmic chant, and with it, the awareness of something extraordinary approaching. Dionysus' presence is felt immediately, gentle yet undeniable, offering both delight and a subtle warning that life as it has been known may soon shift. The god's arrival in a new city was often accompanied by the beginnings of festival traditions, celebrations that honored his dual nature. These festivals, known as Dionysia, would later become central to Greek cultural and religious life, blending the sacred with the communal, the structured with the ecstatic. In these gatherings, mortals experienced the power of Dionysus firsthand. Music and dance lifted spirits, wine and ritual softened boundaries, and the extraordinary became possible in the everyday spaces of human life. Imagine a quiet square, where villagers gather as evening falls, faces illuminated by the soft glow of lanterns, and the gentle, hypnotic rhythm of drums fills the air. There is laughter, song, and a subtle sense of wonder, as though the ordinary world has temporarily dissolved, replaced by a space where freedom, creativity, and joy reign. Yet, Dionysus' presence in cities was never purely benign. With every gift comes responsibility, and with every transformation comes a risk. The god's influence could quickly tip from gentle exhilaration to disorienting frenzy if not respected. Mortals who denied his divinity, mocked his followers, or attempted to control the sacred rituals often faced consequences that were both terrifying and instructive. Imagine a bustling marketplace where a merchant scoffs at a small procession of devotees, only to witness the subtle power of the god unfolding around him, a winepress flowing without touch, animals behaving strangely, or music rising from nowhere to unsettle his senses. These tales, while dramatic, serve to remind communities of the delicate balance Dionysus demanded. Joy must be tempered with respect, freedom must coexist with mindfulness, and celebration must honor the sacred rhythms of life. The god's urban visits also emphasize the contrast between ordinary routines and the extraordinary possibilities he introduced. In the midst of daily labor, market exchanges, and mundane conversations, Dionysus festivals offered glimpses of a world where perception was heightened, emotion intensified, and human experience expanded. Participants could lose themselves in dance, music, and song, discovering capacities for creativity, passion, and connection that ordinary life often suppressed. Picture a young woman, standing quietly at the edge of a festival, feeling the rhythm of drums and laughter stir something deep within her. Slowly, she begins to move, tentative at first, then fully, her body and mind opening to the fluidity of experience the god provides. It is in these moments that Dionysus' transformative power is most evident, calmly, subtly, yet profoundly altering those who embrace it. Another aspect of Dionysus' urban influence was his ability to challenge established norms. His festivals often inverted social hierarchies, encouraged spontaneity, and allowed participants to explore identities and emotions that were normally constrained. Men and women, young and old, could experience freedom, ecstasy, and expression in ways that were both liberating and disorienting. Imagine a quiet evening, lanterns casting soft shadows on stone buildings, a group of villagers joining hands and spinning in circles, laughter rising to the night sky. Within this seemingly simple act lies a profound lesson. Life's richness comes from embracing both the familiar and the unknown, and joy often resides in spaces where control has loosened and imagination flows freely. Dionysus' travels through cities and towns also strengthen the bond between mortals and the natural world. Even in urban environments, he drew attention to the rhythms, textures, and vitality of life around them. Vineyards, gardens, streams, and groves became sacred extensions of the city itself, spaces where worshippers could reconnect with the cycles of growth, harvest, and renewal. Imagine a narrow street opening onto a small, secluded garden where the soft rustle of leaves harmonizes with festival music, the scent of flowers mingling with the tang of wine, and a gentle wind carrying the invisible presence of the god. In these spaces, the ordinary world is transformed, and Dionysus' subtle influence encourages both reverence and celebration, contemplation and exhilaration. Through his urban visits, Dionysus taught that life's ordinary routines could always be infused with wonder, and that joy, ecstasy, and reflection were not confined to remote forests or hidden groves. His presence, calm yet transformative, reminded mortals that the extraordinary is always within reach, waiting for those willing to surrender gently to its rhythms. Imagine the city slowly quieting as the festival ends, lanterns dimming, music fading, and participants returning to their homes, hearts and minds subtly altered. Though the streets may appear unchanged, the invisible threads of Dionysus' influence linger, a quiet, calming reminder that life's ordinary spaces can become extraordinary with presence, awareness, and gentle celebration. Dionysus' influence was not limited to towns and villages. He was also a god who traveled to foreign lands, spreading his rituals, celebrations, and teachings far and wide. Imagine him walking through distant landscapes, from rolling hills to dense forests, rivers winding gently alongside his path. Everywhere he went, his presence was subtle yet unmistakable, a quiet force that could transform ordinary moments into experiences of awe, ecstasy, and revelation. Mortals who encountered him were often unprepared for the profound shifts he brought, for Dionysus had the ability to awaken dormant desires, stir creativity, and challenge conventions in ways that were both exhilarating and disconcerting. His journeys into foreign lands reveal a god who is not confined to one people, one culture, or one tradition, but a presence that transcends borders, inviting all who meet him to experience the extraordinary. In these travels, Dionysus often appeared in unexpected forms. Sometimes he was a young, radiant figure, laughing softly as he walked among mortals. Other times he was more mysterious, a shadow at the edge of a forest or a whisper in the wind. This fluidity in appearance reflected the transformative power he embodied. Those who saw him often sensed that they were witnessing something beyond ordinary perception, a gentle unveiling of the hidden threads that connect the natural, human, and divine worlds. Imagine a quiet grove in a distant land, the sun filtering through ancient trees, and a group of villagers pausing in their work as they feel the soft pull of something unfamiliar yet inviting. Dionysus' presence was always subtle, allowing individuals to choose whether to engage, to follow, or simply to witness the quiet unfolding of his influence. One of the most fascinating aspects of Dionysus' travels was the way he introduced his followers, the Maenads and Satyrs, to new lands and cultures. They carried the rituals, music, and dances of their god into unfamiliar territories, blending local traditions with the essence of Dionysus' teachings. Imagine a quiet riverbank where nymphs and villagers gather, their feet sinking into the soft earth, the gentle rhythm of drums and flutes merging with the sounds of the surrounding landscape. The natural environment itself seemed to respond to the god's presence. Trees swayed more freely, bird songs carried longer into the evening, and even the scent of wild herbs and flowers seemed heightened, as if the world itself were celebrating. These journeys transformed both the god's followers and the lands they touched, creating spaces where the ordinary and the divine intertwined in subtle, mesmerizing ways. Dionysus' travels also emphasized the duality of his nature. In some lands, he brought joy, abundance, and inspiration, teaching mortals the art of celebration, the pleasures of wine, and the liberation of ecstatic movement. In other places, his presence challenged those who resisted or disrespected him, bringing confusion, disorientation, or even fear. This duality was never cruel, it was a reflection of the natural order, a reminder that life is filled with both delight and caution, freedom and responsibility. Imagine a quiet village at dusk, the soft glow of lanterns reflecting on calm waters, as the god's influence gently stirs the hearts and minds of the people. Some feel inspiration and joy, others are quietly unsettled, and all are reminded that life is richer when one embraces both the known and the unknown. One of the most enduring lessons of Dionysus' travels is the way he connected human experience to the cycles of nature. Wherever he went, he emphasized the rhythms of growth, harvest, and renewal. Vineyards, orchards, and fields became sacred spaces, reflecting the harmony between human labor, natural processes, and divine presence. Imagine a small village, the earth freshly tilled, the scent of ripe grapes carried on a soft breeze, villagers gathering to honor the cycle of growth and harvest. In this environment, Dionysus' teachings are tangible. Life is a balance of effort and surrender, labor and celebration, control and ecstasy. His presence reminds mortals that understanding the natural rhythms of the world allows for deeper joy, creativity, and harmony. The god's travels also highlight the importance of adaptability. Dionysus and his followers moved fluidly across landscapes, cultures, and traditions, blending their practices with local customs and creating new forms of celebration and ritual. This adaptability reflects the essence of the god himself, flexible, unpredictable, yet deeply attuned to the world around him. Imagine the gentle rustling of leaves in a foreign forest, the soft echo of flutes carried by the wind, and the quiet laughter of villagers learning new dances, experiencing both delight and slight disorientation as the rhythms of a foreign god mingle with their own. In these moments, the ordinary becomes extraordinary, and the world feels alive with subtle magic. Even in solitude, Dionysus' travels carry meaning. He often journeyed alone, walking through mountains, valleys, and forests, observing the natural and human worlds, reflecting on the delicate balance of life. These solitary moments were quiet but powerful, allowing the god to attune himself to the subtle forces that guide both mortals and nature. Imagine him standing on a hill at twilight, watching the wind ripple across a field of tall grasses, listening to the faint hum of a distant river, feeling the interconnectedness of all things. In these quiet observations, Dionysus deepened his understanding of the world, preparing him for the adventures, challenges, and celebrations that lay ahead. Through these journeys, Dionysus demonstrates that the divine is never confined to one place or one people. He moves freely, subtly transforming the world wherever he goes, teaching mortals about joy, freedom, and the delicate balance of life. His travels remind us that even in distant lands, far from familiar comforts, there is always the potential for wonder, transformation, and connection to something greater than ourselves. As we imagine his quiet, wandering presence, let the rhythm of his journey sink into your mind, preparing you for the deeper mysteries, celebrations, and challenges that define the life of this extraordinary god. As Dionysus' journeys continued, one of the most striking aspects of his presence was the way he influenced mortals' perception of celebration, community, and ritual. He was a god who transformed ordinary gatherings into extraordinary experiences, a deity who reminded people that life's most profound moments often arise from shared joy and collective participation. Imagine a quiet village in the soft glow of dusk, where the streets are lined with simple homes and the scent of fresh bread mingles with the faint aroma of wild grapes. As evening falls, the air begins to hum softly with the rhythms of flutes and drums, the faint murmur of voices rising in anticipation. This is not just a festival, it is a space where the ordinary becomes extraordinary, and where Dionysus' subtle influence begins to shape hearts and minds. Central to these gatherings was the role of music and dance, which Dionysus imbued with both pleasure and power. Every note, every movement, was carefully attuned to the rhythms of nature and the energies of those present. Imagine a quiet grove or town square where villagers gather in a gentle circle, hands linked, bodies swaying in time with a soft drumbeat, flutes weaving melodies through the evening air. The music is calming yet invigorating, a gentle wave that lifts spirits, opens minds, and encourages participants to explore the boundaries of their own expression. Through these experiences, Dionysus teaches that ecstasy and liberation are not chaotic forces to be feared, but rhythms of life to be understood, experienced, and respected. Wine, of course, remained a central element of these celebrations. In Dionysus' presence, it was more than a beverage, it was a medium of connection, a liquid bridge between mortals and the divine. Imagine villagers sipping from small, simple cups, tasting the rich, earthy sweetness of fermented grapes, feeling a gentle warmth spreading through their bodies. This warmth is not merely physical, it is emotional and spiritual, a subtle awakening of the senses and the imagination. Wine encourages reflection and intimacy, softening barriers between individuals and communities, and reminding everyone present of the interconnectedness of life. The gentle influence of Dionysus, transmitted through the simple act of sharing wine, transforms even ordinary moments into something richer and more profound. Dionysus festivals also highlight the delicate balance between order and chaos. While they were carefully structured in their rituals, processions, music, and ceremonial acts, they also embrace spontaneity and unpredictability. This balance mirrors the duality of Dionysus himself, a god capable of both gentle guidance and disruptive energy, a being who delights in liberation yet commands respect. Imagine a quiet town square, lanterns swaying in the evening breeze, villagers moving gracefully to rhythms that shift unexpectedly, laughter and song interweaving with the soft sigh of wind through the trees. Each moment is carefully balanced between calm and excitement, a living illustration of the subtle teachings that Dionysus imparts to those who participate in his rites. Another remarkable aspect of Dionysus' influence during these gatherings is the sense of inclusivity and community he fosters. Unlike some traditions that are exclusive or hierarchical, the festivals of Dionysus invited everyone, young, old, men, women, villagers, travelers, to participate in a shared experience of celebration and reflection. Imagine a small child watching the adults dance, feeling the gentle pull of music and rhythm, a faint smile playing on their lips, learning, even unknowingly, the importance of joy, connection, and freedom. The god's presence ensures that every participant, regardless of status or background, is both a witness and a contributor to the unfolding ritual, a reminder that life's richness is most fully realized when shared with others. The natural world also plays an intimate role in these celebrations. Even in urban settings, gardens, trees, rivers, and open fields become extensions of the sacred space. The rustle of leaves, the soft glow of firelight, the distant murmur of water, all harmonize with the music and movements of the festival. Picture villagers stepping lightly onto soft grass, toes brushing against wildflowers, the cool night air mingling with the aroma of grapes and herbs, the stars above reflecting in the gentle ripples of a nearby stream. In these moments, the ordinary environment becomes a living participant, responding to and amplifying the presence of Dionysus, creating a sense of unity between humans, nature, and the divine. Even subtle acts during these festivals carry meaning. A gentle smile exchanged between neighbors, a quiet laugh in response to a playful gesture, the soft joining of hands in dance. These small moments become threads in a larger tapestry, weaving together community, ecstasy, and divine presence. Through them, Dionysus teaches that the extraordinary is not always in grand gestures or dramatic displays but in the quiet, cumulative moments of shared experience. Imagine a village slowly quieting as the festival winds down, the music fading, laughter lingering like a soft echo, and every participant carrying a subtle, transformative sense of connection and wonder. Ultimately, these gatherings demonstrate Dionysus' gentle mastery over the human experience. He transforms ordinary life into extraordinary experience, invites joy and reflection in equal measure, and teaches that freedom, ecstasy, and responsibility are intertwined. Through music, dance, wine, and the careful integration of nature and community, the god's presence is both calming and profoundly transformative. As you imagine these festivals, let the rhythms, scents, and gentle movements settle in your mind like a soft, soothing wave, preparing for the next chapter in Dionysus' extraordinary story. As Dionysus' influence spread, he inevitably encountered resistance, disbelief, and even hostility. Not everyone welcomed the presence of this strange and powerful god, whose festivals challenged conventional norms and whose very existence questioned the boundaries between mortals and the divine. Imagine a quiet town, the sun low in the sky, casting long shadows across cobblestone streets. Villagers go about their usual routines, sweeping, preparing meals, tending animals, unaware that a subtle force, capable of transforming their perceptions and lives, is approaching. For some, the coming of Dionysus is a gift, a gentle invitation to joy, connection, and liberation. For others, it is disorienting, even threatening, for his presence exposes the fragility of ordinary routines, the limits of control, and the hidden depths of the human mind. Throughout myths, many stories recount the danger faced by those who denied or scorned Dionysus. Kings, nobles, and commoners alike experienced moments of profound warning when they failed to honor the god's presence. These encounters often began subtly, a strange feeling of unease, an inexplicable sound or movement, a sudden ripple of confusion spreading through a household or city. Imagine a king sitting on his throne, confident and composed, when the faint sound of flutes drifts through the halls. At first, he dismisses it, attributing it to wind or passing travelers. But slowly, the music grows, carrying a rhythm he cannot resist, filling him with both awe and disquiet. It is in these moments that Dionysus demonstrates the delicate balance of his power. He does not strike out violently without reason, yet he cannot be ignored or denied. One of the most famous stories illustrating this is the tale of King Pentheus of Thebes. Pentheus, determined to maintain control over his city and dismissing the rituals of Dionysus as frivolous or dangerous, attempts to suppress the god and his followers. Imagine the city streets, quiet at first, then gradually filled with the soft rhythm of drums, the rustle of leaves as maenads enter the forest surrounding the city, moving with grace and purpose. Pentheus' resistance, though firm in intention, is met with the subtle yet irresistible power of Dionysus' influence. The god does not act through force alone, he moves through perception, desire, and the gentle erosion of certainty, showing that true power lies not in rigid control but in understanding, respect, and surrender to the rhythms of life. The story unfolds with Pentheus being drawn into the world he sought to suppress. He observes the maenads in the forest, captivated by their music, dance, and the intoxicating freedom they embody. Imagine the quiet forest illuminated by soft moonlight, shadows moving like liquid across the ground, and Pentheus' own heartbeat synchronizing with the rhythm of the drums. At first, he resists, reminding himself of his authority, yet slowly, the subtle force of Dionysus' presence seeps into his awareness. He is entranced, moved, and ultimately overwhelmed. This tale exemplifies a recurring theme in Dionysian mythology. The god's power is not brute force but a quiet, transformative presence that exposes human limitations, desires, and vulnerabilities. These myths also highlight the consequences of misunderstanding or disrespecting Dionysus. Pentheus' eventual fate is tragic, yet instructive. Through his story, we see that resistance to natural rhythms, divine influence, or the human need for liberation can have profound consequences. It is not merely punishment, it is a reflection of life's intricate balance, a reminder that ignoring joy, ecstasy, and the deeper currents of existence can lead to disorientation or downfall. Imagine the quiet aftermath of the forest scene, the moonlight fading, leaves settling into stillness, and the subtle whisper of wind carrying the lesson that life's power flows through both acceptance and resistance. These stories teach caution, but also respect and reverence, reminding mortals that the divine often moves in gentle yet unstoppable ways. Even beyond tales of punishment or warning, Dionysus' interactions with skeptics and doubters reveal the subtlety of his character. He is not simply a god of chaos or ecstasy, he is a teacher, guiding mortals to experience the extraordinary within themselves and the world around them. Consider the quiet moments before a festival, when villagers pause to prepare offerings, adjust garments, or arrange music and instruments. In these moments, Dionysus' influence is felt not through spectacle but through anticipation, curiosity, and the subtle shifting of energy. Mortals may feel a gentle stirring in their hearts, a soft invitation to surrender control, to embrace spontaneity, and to explore hidden depths of emotion, creativity, and connection. Through these encounters, we also see the duality of Dionysus' power. He inspires both fear and fascination, awe and joy. His presence disrupts complacency, awakens hidden desires, and encourages liberation, yet it is always tempered by the need for respect, awareness, and discernment. Imagine a quiet household at night, the soft flicker of candlelight reflecting in a window, a distant flute carried on the breeze. The family inside feels a gentle thrill, a quiet tension, a reminder that life is neither entirely safe nor entirely predictable. Dionysus embodies this balance, teaching that true freedom and joy come not from avoidance of uncertainty, but from embracing it with curiosity, mindfulness, and grace. The encounters with skeptics and doubters also reinforce the idea that Dionysus is a god of transformation. Even those who initially resist may ultimately find themselves changed by his presence. Imagine Pentheus or another mortal, standing quietly as the rhythm of drums and the echo of song fill the air, experiencing a slow, imperceptible shift in awareness. Their thoughts, emotions, and perceptions are subtly realigned, revealing possibilities, desires, or insights previously hidden. Dionysus teaches that even resistance carries potential for growth, that encounters with the unknown, though sometimes unsettling, can ultimately expand understanding and perception. Through these stories, it becomes clear that Dionysus' power is complex, gentle, and deeply transformative. He is not a god of simple pleasure or chaos, he is a deity who reveals the hidden rhythms of life, challenges conventional thinking, and awakens mortals to both joy and danger. As we reflect on these encounters, picture the quiet woods, the soft moonlight, the gentle rustle of leaves, and the distant, entrancing rhythm of drums. Allow yourself to feel the calm yet potent presence of Dionysus, understanding that his lessons are both gentle and profound, offering insight into the extraordinary depths of human experience and divine influence. As the stories of Dionysus unfolded, one aspect of his power that became increasingly apparent was his deep connection to nature, particularly the wild and untamed aspects of the natural world. Unlike gods who remained confined to grand temples or palaces, Dionysus thrived in forests, mountains, and vineyards, where life grew freely and unpredictably. Imagine a quiet valley at dawn, mist rolling over the hills, dew sparkling on wildflowers, and the gentle murmur of a distant river. This is the realm where Dionysus feels most at home, where his presence is natural, fluid, and inseparable from the rhythms of life. He moves silently through groves and fields, observing the slow unfolding of leaves, the ripening of grapes, the delicate balance of predator and prey, and the subtle interplay of light and shadow. Through this connection, the god teaches mortals that life is a continuous dance between growth and decay, structure and chaos, calm and ecstasy. The god's link to vineyards and wine, previously explored, is intimately tied to this natural domain. Grapes, nurtured by sun, soil, and rain, symbolize the cycles of life and transformation that Dionysus embodies. But beyond agriculture, the natural world becomes a stage for divine influence and human ritual. Imagine a quiet grove where maenads gather in preparation for a ritual, the soft rustle of leaves, the sweet scent of grapes and herbs, and the distant call of birds all harmonize with the quiet anticipation in the air. Dionysus' followers move lightly among the trees, setting the rhythm with flutes and gentle percussion, their movements both guided by and in harmony with the natural environment. In these moments, nature itself seems to breathe alongside them, participating in the unfolding ritual, subtly teaching humans about the interconnectedness of all life. Dionysus' affinity for the wild extends beyond vegetation. He is closely associated with animals, particularly those that embody freedom, strength, and instinct. Satyrs, often depicted with goat-like features, are his companions in the forests, playful and untamed, representing the joyous and mischievous side of nature. Their presence in rituals and myths emphasizes the importance of embracing instinct alongside intellect, playfulness alongside contemplation. Imagine the satyrs leaping across streams, rustling through ferns, their laughter echoing softly as the moonlight glints off their fur. They are not chaotic merely for spectacle. They represent the natural, vibrant, and necessary energy of life that humans often suppress. Through these creatures, Dionysus communicates lessons about joy, spontaneity, and the wild pulse that underlies existence. The Maenads, similarly, serve as living bridges between human culture and the untamed world. Their dances, often frenzied yet rhythmically precise, mimic the unpredictability of nature, wind twisting through the branches, rivers changing course, storms rising and falling. Picture a quiet forest glade, the moonlight spilling across soft moss, as Maenads twirl, their garments flowing like water, hair catching the light, and feet stirring the earth. Every motion is both a celebration and an offering, a reflection of nature's duality, beautiful yet powerful, nurturing yet unpredictable. Through their rituals, mortals learn to respect the forces that cannot be controlled, to participate in the rhythms of life, and to understand that ecstasy and chaos are not opposed but intertwined. Dionysus' presence in nature also brings subtle transformations to the landscape itself. Rivers may flow more smoothly, winds carry melodies from distant groves, and the scent of wildflowers seems amplified in his proximity. Even in moments of quiet, when no ritual is taking place, his divine energy is felt as a gentle hum in the environment, a reminder that the extraordinary is embedded within the ordinary world. Imagine walking along a forest path at dusk, the air thick with the smell of wet earth, leaves brushing softly against your skin, and an almost imperceptible vibration in the air, as if the world itself is alive and aware. This is Dionysus' gift, an ever-present reminder that life is richer when attuned to the subtle rhythms and energies around us. This connection to nature also underscores the god's role as a teacher of perception. Through forests, mountains, and rivers, he demonstrates that understanding life requires observation, attentiveness, and reverence. Mortals who journey with Dionysus learn to notice the small details, the way light shifts through leaves, the patterns of animal behavior, the scent of ripening fruit, and the textures of soil and stone. These observations are more than aesthetic. They are lessons in harmony, balance, and the recognition that every element of life, no matter how small, contributes to the whole. Imagine a follower pausing mid-step, listening to the soft rustle of a distant deer, feeling the vibration of a flowing stream underfoot, and suddenly perceiving a connection between themselves and the greater world. In this quiet realization lies a profound awakening, facilitated by Dionysus' subtle, calming presence. Moreover, Dionysus' association with the untamed reflects his power over human perception of freedom and constraint. In nature, boundaries exist but are often fluid. Rivers carve new paths, storms reshape landscapes, and seasons change with gentle inevitability. Similarly, Dionysus encourages mortals to explore the fluidity of their own minds, emotions, and desires. Imagine standing at the edge of a cliff, the wind brushing your face, the sky painted in soft twilight hues, and a sense of infinite possibility spreading quietly within. This feeling, guided by the gentle hand of Dionysus, is both exhilarating and soothing, a calm yet transformative reminder that life's most profound experiences often occur at the intersection of freedom, observation, and surrender. Through these quiet, immersive interactions with the natural world, Dionysus continues to teach his followers that the divine is present not only in ritual and celebration but also in the ordinary, overlooked elements of life. A rustling leaf, a trickling stream, or the subtle warmth of the sun becomes a doorway to understanding, a point of connection between mortal and divine, human and nature. As the forest quiets, the moon rises, and the soft sigh of the wind moves through the trees, one begins to sense the gentle, pervasive presence of Dionysus, reminding all who observe that life is a continuous interplay of calm and ecstasy, control and surrender, ordinary and extraordinary. One of the most intriguing aspects of Dionysus' mythology is his connection to transformation, both of the self and the world around him. Unlike other deities who exerted their power through direct intervention or displays of force, Dionysus often worked in subtler ways, guiding mortals and nature alike through gentle, yet profound, changes. Imagine a quiet evening in a remote forest, where the soft light of the moon glimmers through the leaves, and a gentle breeze carries the faint scent of wild grapes and herbs. In this serene setting, the influence of Dionysus can be felt most keenly, a subtle shift in perception, a soft stirring of emotions, and the quiet awareness that life, even in its most ordinary moments, holds the potential for wonder and transformation. Transformation under Dionysus is rarely immediate or violent. It is a gradual unfolding, much like the ripening of fruit or the slow growth of a vine winding through the trees. Mortals who encounter him often experience small, imperceptible shifts first, an unusual thought, a sudden curiosity, a fleeting sense of liberation from habitual patterns. Imagine a young villager walking quietly through a grove at twilight, noticing the wind moving through the branches in a rhythm that feels inexplicably familiar, or the soft hum of insects forming a delicate melody. These subtle moments are the prelude to deeper transformation, as the god encourages the individual to notice the hidden patterns of life, to embrace change, and to step beyond the confines of ordinary perception. The god's power to transform is closely linked to his followers, particularly the Maenads and Satyrs. These devoted companions not only participate in rituals but also act as conduits for Dionysus' influence. Imagine Maenads dancing lightly among ancient oaks, their movements fluid and seemingly effortless, hair and garments catching the soft glow of moonlight. Each step, each motion, conveys the rhythm of transformation, the release of tension, the expansion of awareness, the gentle awakening of creativity and vitality. Similarly, Satyrs, with their playful, mischievous energy, encourage mortals to embrace spontaneity, humor, and the unexpected twists of life. Through these figures, Dionysus demonstrates that transformation is not merely about dramatic change, but also about cultivating flexibility, joy, and a deeper understanding of the self. Transformation also extends to the physical world in Dionysian myths. Forests, rivers, and vineyards often reflect the god's presence, subtly shifting in response to his influence. Imagine a quiet riverbank at dawn, mist rising from the water, leaves trembling as a gentle wind stirs the branches. Slowly, the ripples of the river seem to mirror the rhythms of distant music, the plants sway in perfect harmony, and even the light itself appears softened and enriched. Through such imagery, Dionysus reveals that change is a natural, continuous process, occurring both within and outside the human mind. He teaches that every aspect of life, emotion, perception, environment, is interconnected, and that transformation arises most powerfully when one moves with, rather than against, these rhythms. The transformative power of Dionysus is also evident in the way he challenges social and psychological boundaries. Mortals often encounter him during moments when they are constrained by fear, expectation, or societal norms. Picture a city square in quiet anticipation, villagers hesitant but curious, as soft music drifts through the streets, inviting them to dance, to sing, and to temporarily let go of the roles and rules that govern daily life. In such moments, Dionysus encourages liberation, the release of pent-up emotion, the exploration of hidden desires, and the awakening of creativity and insight. Through this gentle yet profound intervention, mortals learn that true transformation requires a balance of courage, openness, and trust in the process of change. Even suffering, grief, and confusion are part of Dionysus' transformative work. He does not shield mortals from hardship. Instead, he guides them to understand and integrate difficult experiences. Imagine a quiet glade where a villager sits alone, heart heavy with sorrow, listening to the soft murmur of wind through the trees. Slowly, the rhythm of a distant drum, the soft cadence of a flute, and the gentle sway of shadows among the leaves offer a kind of solace, a reminder that even pain can be a teacher. Through these quiet moments, Dionysus demonstrates that transformation is not always about pleasure or ecstasy. It is about growth, understanding, and the gradual unfolding of wisdom and resilience. The god's transformative influence also extends to perception itself. Mortals who encounter him often find that the world appears more vivid, more alive, and more interconnected. Colors may seem richer, sounds more resonant, and the smallest details of life infused with significance. Imagine walking through a vineyard at sunset, the grapes glowing softly in the last light, a gentle breeze carrying the scent of wildflowers, and the distant hum of cicadas merging with the rhythm of one's heartbeat. In these moments, life seems expanded, ordinary events imbued with subtle magic, and the individual senses a connection to the divine presence that underlies all existence. Ultimately, the stories of transformation in Dionysian mythology teach that change is not something to be feared but embraced. It is gentle, gradual, and immersive, unfolding at its own pace, often in ways that surprise and delight. Whether through rituals, music, wine, or the quiet observation of nature, Dionysus guides mortals to awaken to new possibilities, to understand the interplay of joy and sorrow, freedom and restraint, ecstasy and calm. As the forest darkens under a rising moon, the soft murmur of wind through trees, the gentle ripple of a stream, and the faint echo of distant flutes invite reflection, transformation, and quiet surrender to the rhythms of life. As Dionysus' influence deepened, one of the most striking aspects of his mythology is his intimate connection to madness, not merely chaos, but a divine form of altered consciousness that opens the mind to new perceptions, emotions, and experiences. This madness is not purely destructive, it is transformative, a passage through which mortals can confront hidden truths about themselves, the world, and the unseen forces that surround them. Imagine a quiet grove at night, the moon casting a gentle silver glow on the leaves, and the soft rustle of the wind carrying the distant echo of flutes and drums. In this serene setting, madness under Dionysus' guidance is not frightening, but subtle and immersive, a gentle expansion of awareness that challenges the boundaries of ordinary thought. Madness in the Dionysian sense often manifests as a temporary surrender of the self, a release from rigid patterns of thought, social expectation, or habitual behavior. Picture a Maenad spinning gracefully beneath the trees, her hair catching the moonlight, her feet barely touching the soft earth, fully immersed in the rhythm of drums and flutes. Her mind becomes a canvas on which the divine paints, thoughts and emotions blending and flowing freely, revealing insights and experiences that were previously inaccessible. Dionysus teaches that by relinquishing control, mortals can encounter dimensions of experience that are both beautiful and unsettling, and in doing so, gain a deeper understanding of life's complexity. The god's followers, particularly the Maenads and Satyrs, serve as both participants and guides in these encounters with divine madness. Their rituals are carefully designed to facilitate altered states, blending music, dance, and natural elements in ways that coax the mind into subtle transformation. Imagine a quiet stream running through a forest glade, flutes weaving soft melodies, the rustle of leaves blending with gentle percussion, and the rhythmic steps of dancers moving through the moonlit landscape. Each movement, each note, each sound works in harmony to dissolve the ordinary boundaries of consciousness, inviting participants to experience life in a more fluid, interconnected, and expansive way. This is not mindless chaos, but a sacred interplay of freedom and awareness, structured to reveal the hidden potential within the human psyche. Dionysian madness also challenges the assumptions and hierarchies of everyday life. Those who are accustomed to rigid social structures or strict routines may find themselves disoriented, yet within this disorientation lies opportunity. Imagine a village festival where villagers, initially hesitant, begin to follow the rhythm of distant drums. Slowly, they feel their minds opening, the habitual chatter of thoughts quieting, replaced by a sense of unity with the earth, the wind, the rhythm of music, and the presence of the divine. In this gentle dissolution of control, the participants discover new perspectives, enhanced creativity, and a profound sense of connection to one another, to nature, and to the divine forces at work. Yet, madness under Dionysus is not without risk. Stories caution that those who resist or misunderstand his influence may experience disorientation, fear, or even destruction. This is not arbitrary punishment but a reflection of life's delicate balance. The god's power must be approached with respect, mindfulness, and openness. Imagine a figure standing at the edge of the forest, hesitant, unsure of whether to join the dancers and the rhythm. Slowly, as the sounds and movements envelop them, they must decide to remain in control and risk isolation, or to surrender gently and discover the hidden depths of experience. In this choice lies a lesson about the duality of human existence, the potential for liberation and the necessity of discernment. Dionysian madness also emphasizes the interconnectedness of all life. The altered state he inspires allows mortals to perceive subtle relationships between themselves, others, and the natural world. Imagine a quiet grove where leaves shimmer softly in moonlight, a stream reflects the stars above, and dancers move in perfect harmony with the rhythms of the environment. In this space, boundaries dissolve, self and other, human and animal, thought and sensation merge in a flowing awareness of unity. Participants may experience visions, insights, or heightened senses that provide profound understanding of natural cycles, human emotion, and divine intention. Madness, in this context, is a form of revelation, an awakening to hidden dimensions of life. Even the seemingly chaotic aspects of Dionysian madness carry meaning. Stories often depict moments of frenzy, wild movement, and ecstatic outpouring, yet beneath the surface lies structure, intention, and subtle guidance. Imagine a Maenad leaping through a moonlit clearing, spinning with abandon, yet her movements resonate with an unseen rhythm, perfectly aligned with the flow of the forest, the beat of distant drums, and the presence of the god. In this way, Dionysus demonstrates that what appears chaotic or uncontrolled may, in fact, reveal deeper patterns, hidden connections, and profound truths that ordinary perception cannot access. Ultimately, Dionysian madness is both a challenge and a gift. It disrupts complacency, expands perception, fosters creativity, and deepens connection to the self, the community, and the natural world. Imagine the quiet aftermath of a festival, the soft rustle of leaves, the lingering aroma of crushed grapes, the gentle hum of insects, and the faint echo of drums fading into the distance. Participants return to their homes, transformed subtly, carrying the memory of liberation, insight, and awareness into their daily lives. Dionysus teaches that madness is not to be feared, but respected, and that in surrendering to its gentle currents, mortals can experience life in ways both extraordinary and calming, joyful and reflective, chaotic yet deeply harmonious. Dionysus' mythology is not only filled with stories of ecstasy, madness, and transformation, but also with moments of profound paradox, where joy and terror, life and death, celebration and destruction coexist in a delicate balance. One of the most striking aspects of his narrative is the way he embodies duality, teaching mortals that life's experiences are rarely simple or one-dimensional. Imagine a quiet evening in a forest glade, the last rays of sunlight filtering through the trees, and the gentle rustle of leaves creating a soft harmony with distant birdsong. In this calm, contemplative space, Dionysus' paradoxes unfold subtly, inviting reflection and gentle awe. He is a god who delights in liberation and creativity, yet whose presence can also unsettle, challenge, or even overwhelm those who encounter him unprepared. One of the ways this duality manifests is through his rituals and festivals, where joy and wildness intermingle seamlessly with caution and structure. Picture a village square at dusk, lanterns casting warm, flickering light on cobblestones, flutes and soft drums beginning a gentle cadence, and villagers stepping lightly into the rhythm, their hearts open to both delight and uncertainty. The music encourages movement, creativity, and expression, yet it is guided by subtle patterns and flows, teaching participants that freedom and control can coexist. Through this delicate interplay, Dionysus communicates a profound lesson. True liberation is not reckless abandon, but an informed surrender to the rhythms of life, where pleasure and insight are intertwined. The duality of Dionysus is also evident in his interactions with mortals who resist or misunderstand his influence. Those who approach him with arrogance, skepticism, or hostility often encounter experiences that are simultaneously awe-inspiring and terrifying. Imagine a king who denies the god's presence, walking through the quiet streets of his city at twilight, feeling an inexplicable tension in the air, the faint echo of flutes and drums stirring a subtle unease within him. His perception is challenged, his control tested, and though he may fear what is unfolding, he is also drawn into a deeper understanding of life's hidden currents. In these encounters, Dionysus' duality becomes clear. He is neither entirely gentle nor entirely destructive, but a force that encourages balance, awareness, and respect. Dionysus' paradoxical nature extends beyond human perception to the natural world. Forests, rivers, and vineyards under his influence reflect both beauty and unpredictability, calm and chaos, abundance and decay. Imagine walking through a quiet grove, the soft scent of ripening grapes mingling with the earthy aroma of wet soil, leaves swaying gently as if in quiet conversation with the wind. Yet beneath this serene surface lies the potential for sudden transformation. A river may swell, a storm may approach, or the shadows may shift unexpectedly. Through these subtle variations, Dionysus teaches that life itself is a tapestry of contrasts, and that understanding, joy, and resilience emerge when mortals learn to navigate the interplay of opposing forces with grace and awareness. Another aspect of Dionysus' duality is seen in the delicate balance between pleasure and restraint, intoxication and clarity. Wine, music, and ritual provide gateways to altered consciousness and ecstasy, yet they also carry subtle lessons about moderation, attention, and mindfulness. Imagine a quiet vineyard at dusk, villagers seated in small clusters, sipping wine, listening to the soft cadence of flutes, and moving lightly in dance. Each sip, each note, each step opens awareness while simultaneously reminding participants of the boundaries inherent in human experience. In this way, Dionysus demonstrates that pleasure and discipline are not opposed, but mutually reinforcing, and that the gods' gifts are most fully appreciated when approached with both reverence and curiosity. Dionysus' paradoxical nature also invites mortals to confront the mysteries of life and death. Many myths depict moments where the god blurs the boundaries between mortality and divinity, presence and absence, transformation and disappearance. Imagine a quiet forest glade at twilight, a gentle breeze carrying the faint scent of crushed herbs and grapes, and shadows moving softly among the trees. In such moments, mortals may sense a presence that is both comforting and unsettling, revealing that life's most profound truths are often hidden in spaces between certainty and mystery. Through these subtle encounters, Dionysus encourages contemplation, reflection, and an appreciation for the profound complexity of existence. Even in moments of apparent chaos, Dionysus' duality reveals a deeper harmony. Festivals, rituals, and tales of divine madness often include wild movements, frenzied dance, and ecstatic outpourings, yet beneath this apparent disorder lies rhythm, intention, and subtle guidance. Imagine a quiet forest clearing illuminated by moonlight, maenads and satyrs moving in complex, flowing patterns, the sound of distant drums echoing softly through the trees. At first glance, the movements may seem chaotic, but as one observes closely, the harmony and balance underlying the frenzy become apparent. Dionysus' duality teaches that life's apparent contradictions often conceal hidden patterns, and that wisdom, joy, and understanding emerge when one learns to perceive them with patience and attention. Ultimately, Dionysus' paradoxical nature offers profound insight into the human condition. He embodies joy and terror, freedom and constraint, life and transformation, demonstrating that these contrasts are not obstacles, but essential elements of existence. Imagine a quiet night, the forest settling into stillness, stars twinkling softly above, and the gentle hum of the wind carrying distant echoes of flute and drum. In this peaceful moment, one senses the subtle, pervasive presence of Dionysus, reminding all who encounter him that life's richness is found in the delicate interplay of opposing forces, in the embrace of paradox, and in the quiet awareness that joy, reflection, and transformation can coexist harmoniously in every moment. As Dionysus' story unfolds, another essential aspect of his mythology emerges: his profound influence on the imagination, creativity, and the subtle awakening of human consciousness. Unlike gods who wielded raw power to enforce obedience or dominion, Dionysus works gently, coaxing mortals into new ways of seeing, thinking, and feeling. Imagine a quiet evening in a secluded grove, the moonlight spilling softly across dew-laden leaves, and the faint, harmonious notes of a flute drifting through the air. In this serene setting, creativity under Dionysus' guidance does not erupt suddenly like a storm. Instead, it unfurls gradually, a quiet awakening that encourages mortals to perceive the ordinary in extraordinary ways, to notice the hidden patterns of life, and to explore the depths of their own consciousness with curiosity and reverence. The gods' connection to music, dance, and ritual is central to this awakening. Music, under Dionysus' influence, is not merely sound. It becomes a conduit for insight, emotion, and imagination. Picture a gentle procession through the forest, flutes and soft drums weaving a melody that echoes through the trees, the rustle of leaves blending with the rhythm, creating a tapestry of sound that feels both intimate and expansive. Villagers, guided by this music, begin to move in ways that feel natural yet inspired, their bodies expressing thoughts and emotions that words cannot convey. Through these experiences, Dionysus teaches that creativity is not only an act of the mind but a holistic engagement of body, emotion, and spirit, a quiet expansion of perception that transforms both the individual and the environment around them. Dance, similarly, serves as a gateway to imaginative exploration. The flowing, spontaneous movements of Dionysus' followers, particularly the Maenads, demonstrate how the body can become a vessel for insight and expression. Imagine a soft moonlight glade, Maenads moving gracefully among the trees, hair and garments catching the silvery light, feet barely touching the soft moss beneath. Their movements reflect both freedom and discipline, chaos and rhythm, embodying the subtle balance that Dionysus encourages. Observers are invited to participate, to move, to feel, and to connect, discovering aspects of themselves previously unrecognized. In this way, dance becomes a mirror for consciousness, a bridge between inner thought and external expression, and a gentle reminder of the hidden potential for creativity in every moment of life. Dionysus also cultivates creativity through his association with altered states of consciousness. Through wine, ritual, and the immersive rhythms of music and dance, mortals are invited to explore dimensions of perception beyond ordinary awareness. Picture a quiet village at dusk, a gentle breeze carrying the scent of wild grapes, lanterns swaying softly as the distant sound of drums and flutes invites participation. Villagers sip wine slowly, feeling the warmth spread, a subtle loosening of habitual thought patterns, a gentle opening to new ideas, emotions, and perceptions. In this altered state, the mind becomes receptive to subtle connections, new possibilities, and deeper insights. Dionysus teaches that creativity is not always about deliberate effort or control but about attuning oneself to the flowing currents of experience, allowing inspiration to emerge naturally. The gods' influence extends beyond the individual to the collective imagination. Festivals, rituals, and communal gatherings allow entire communities to engage in shared experiences of creativity, reflection, and inspiration. Imagine a forest clearing where villagers, travelers, and followers gather, soft lantern light flickering across faces, the gentle sound of drums and flutes creating a shared rhythm. In this communal space, imagination becomes a collective phenomenon. Stories are told, dances are improvised, songs echo through the trees, and even the environment seems to respond to the energy of the participants. This collective engagement reinforces the subtle lessons of Dionysus. Creativity and inspiration are nurtured through connection, empathy, and openness to the rhythms of both human and natural worlds. Dionysus' impact on imagination also encompasses the subconscious, the hidden aspects of the human mind. Dreams, intuition, and subtle emotional currents are all within the sphere of his influence. Picture a quiet night, the forest settling into calm, stars twinkling faintly above, the soft rustle of leaves creating a gentle whisper. In this stillness, mortals may notice fleeting thoughts, sudden insights, or images that seem to arrive from nowhere. These moments, guided by the gods' influence, reveal the richness of the inner world and the untapped potential of the human mind. Dionysus demonstrates that imagination is not merely a surface activity but a deep, transformative engagement with the unseen forces that shape perception, understanding, and emotion. Even subtle acts of creation, from the crafting of instruments to the preparation of ritual spaces, are imbued with his influence. Imagine hands gently arranging flowers, laying out small cups of wine, or striking soft rhythms on drums. Each careful gesture reflects attention, intention, and reverence, demonstrating that the act of creation is as much about mindfulness and presence as it is about outcome. Through these quiet practices, mortals learn to connect the ordinary with the extraordinary, discovering inspiration in the simplest details of life and allowing their imagination to unfold gradually, gently, and with profound depth. Ultimately, Dionysus' impact on imagination and creativity underscores the centrality of subtlety, patience, and immersion in his teachings. He does not demand immediate brilliance or dramatic transformation. Instead, he nurtures awareness, encourages exploration, and gently guides mortals to discover the extraordinary within the ordinary. Imagine the forest at night, soft moonlight reflecting on dew, the distant hum of a flute, and leaves rustling with an almost imperceptible rhythm. In this quiet, immersive space, the teachings of Dionysus resonate. Creativity is a journey, a gentle unfolding, a bridge between perception and expression, guided by both the mind and the subtle currents of the world around us. As Dionysus' presence continued to ripple through human experience, one of the most fascinating aspects of his mythology emerges, the blending of pleasure and peril, joy and danger, in ways that reveal the complexity of life itself. He is not a god of one-dimensional delight, nor a deity who simply punishes indiscriminately. Instead, his influence walks a fine line between ecstasy and disorientation, teaching mortals that the richness of existence is inseparable from its risks and uncertainties. Imagine a quiet night in a dense forest, the moonlight filtering through leaves, casting gentle shadows on the soft moss below, and the faint sound of flutes and drums echoing in the distance. In this tranquil setting, the dual nature of Dionysus' influence becomes apparent. He invites mortals to explore the heights of joy, creativity, and freedom, while also exposing them to the subtle, sometimes disorienting, edges of experience that demand respect, mindfulness, and awareness. Central to this dynamic is the notion of indulgence balanced by consequence. Dionysus offers pleasures that awaken the senses, elevate the spirit, and expand perception, yet these same pleasures can lead to disarray if approached without care. Imagine villagers gathering in a quiet clearing for a festival. Lanterns flicker softly in the dusk, drums and flutes weave a rhythmic melody, and the aroma of sweet grapes and herbs mingles in the air. Participants are invited to dance, to sing, and to share wine, each sip and movement fostering a subtle opening of the mind and heart. However, this expansion of awareness comes with responsibility. The god teaches that joy is most profound when experienced with mindfulness, and that excess or disregard for the rhythms of life can result in confusion or harm. This interplay of ecstasy and caution is particularly visible in myths involving those who resist or misunderstand Dionysus. One of the most well-known examples is King Pentheus of Thebes, whose rigid denial of the god's power leads to both fascination and destruction. Imagine Pentheus observing the Maenads in the forest, drawn irresistibly by the music, the dance, and the freedom they embody, yet simultaneously struggling against the pull of his own fear and pride. His senses are heightened, his thoughts racing, and a subtle fear intertwines with awe. Through his story, Dionysus illustrates a critical principle: human perception is delicate, and the threshold between liberation and danger is narrow. One must approach the divine with both openness and respect, embracing transformation while acknowledging the boundaries that ensure safety and understanding. Dionysus festivals also highlight this delicate balance between pleasure and peril. The rituals often involve ecstatic movement, intoxicating music, and the consumption of wine, creating an environment where ordinary patterns of behavior and thought are gently disrupted. Imagine a quiet grove at night, Maenads twirling gracefully among the trees, satyrs leaping lightly through shadows, the soft cadence of drums blending with the rustle of leaves, and mortals following, their hearts swelling with excitement, wonder, and sometimes apprehension. In this environment, the ordinary rules of daily life are suspended, yet the structure of ritual provides a subtle guide, a framework within which freedom can flourish safely. Dionysus teaches that life's greatest joys often lie at the edges of comfort, where exhilaration and caution meet in harmonious tension. The god's influence extends beyond communal experiences to deeply personal encounters. Mortals alone in forests, fields, or vineyards often sense his presence through subtle cues: the shimmer of moonlight on a river, the sudden rustle of leaves, or the faint hum of distant music. These quiet moments of encounter are transformative, yet also humbling, reminding individuals of their vulnerability and interconnectedness with the wider world. Imagine a solitary figure walking through a quiet vineyard at twilight, feeling a gentle warmth in the chest, a soft stirring of thought, and an expansion of awareness that is both thrilling and unsettling. Dionysus demonstrates that pleasure, creativity, and insight are inseparable from a recognition of life's inherent uncertainties, and that growth often requires venturing into spaces that are at once inviting and challenging. Even the god's association with madness reflects this interplay of joy and danger. The altered states he induces, through music, dance, ritual, or wine, open doors to profound insight, creativity, and emotional release, yet they also carry potential for disorientation or misjudgment. Imagine a quiet forest glade illuminated by moonlight, maenads spinning in ecstatic dance, flutes weaving a melody that echoes softly among the trees. A mortal drawn into this scene feels the thrill of liberation, the sweet rush of sensory awakening, and the subtle tension of uncertainty, unsure where the boundaries of experience lie. Dionysus teaches that true transformation often requires this delicate balance, the willingness to step beyond ordinary constraints while remaining attentive to one's own limits and the natural order. The god's duality is also reflected in his ability to inspire both fear and fascination simultaneously. Mortals often experience moments of awe mingled with apprehension when encountering Dionysus' presence, a reminder that the extraordinary is rarely entirely safe or predictable. Imagine standing at the edge of a forest during a festival, listening to the soft drumbeat, watching shadows dance among trees, feeling both a quiet thrill and a subtle tension in the air. In this delicate interplay, Dionysus demonstrates that wonder and danger are not opposites but complementary forces, each giving meaning to the other, each shaping perception, and each enriching the experience of life. Ultimately, the myths of Dionysus reveal that pleasure and peril, joy and disorientation, are inseparable elements of existence. He embodies the delicate art of balance, showing mortals that liberation is both exhilarating and humbling, ecstasy and awareness are intertwined, and that life's richness is most fully realized when one embraces its contrasts with curiosity, reverence, and gentle courage. Imagine the quiet forest after a festival, the soft rustle of leaves, the faint scent of grapes lingering in the air, and the distant echo of flutes fading into the night. In this serene moment, one senses the subtle presence of Dionysus, reminding all who encounter him that the extraordinary arises where caution meets courage, pleasure meets mindfulness, and joy meets the ever-present potential for transformation. As Dionysus' myths unfold, one of the most profound aspects of his influence emerges in his deep connection to the cycles of life, death, and rebirth. Unlike gods who remained distant, observing from lofty realms, Dionysus moved intimately within the rhythms of existence, guiding mortals to understand that endings and beginnings are intertwined, and that transformation often follows apparent destruction. Imagine a quiet evening in a forest, the last rays of sunlight painting the sky in gentle shades of rose and gold, leaves trembling in the soft evening breeze. In this tranquil moment, the presence of Dionysus can almost be felt, subtle, pervasive, and transformative, whispering that life is a continuous ebb and flow, a delicate interplay between creation and dissolution, joy and sorrow, freedom and restraint. Central to this understanding is the way Dionysus embodies death and rebirth simultaneously. He is not a harbinger of finality but a guide through the natural, inevitable cycles that shape all life. Picture a quiet vineyard at dusk, the vines heavy with ripening grapes, the soil rich and dark beneath the fading light, and the soft hum of insects drifting in the warm air. The fruits of the vine symbolize more than abundance. They are a reminder that growth is always followed by decay, and that decay in turn gives rise to new life. Dionysus' presence in these cycles teaches mortals to embrace change, to recognize that endings are necessary precursors to renewal, and that each moment of life contains within it the seeds of transformation and rebirth. The god's connection to rebirth is also vividly represented in the myths surrounding his personal story. Dionysus himself is born, torn, and reborn in various tales, often symbolizing the perpetual renewal inherent in existence. Imagine a quiet forest clearing, soft moonlight reflecting on a still pond, leaves rustling as if in gentle conversation with the wind, and the faint echo of distant flutes. In such a space, the cycles of Dionysus' own life mirror the cycles experienced by mortals, the loss of what is familiar, the immersion into the unknown, and the emergence into a new form or state of awareness. Through these stories, he conveys a profound lesson. Life is a series of transformations, and the challenges, losses, and mysteries encountered along the way are integral to the unfolding of wisdom, creativity, and joy. Dionysus festivals and rituals often mirrored these natural and personal cycles, creating sacred spaces where mortals could experience endings and beginnings in symbolic form. Picture a grove alive with the soft glow of lanterns, the gentle sway of dancers, and the rhythmic pulse of drums echoing among ancient trees. Participants, moving with the music, sip wine slowly, feeling a subtle release of tension, a quiet loosening of habitual thought patterns, and a gentle opening of perception. In these moments, death is not feared, but honored, and the potential for rebirth, insight, and renewed vitality is recognized. The god's influence encourages mortals to approach change with reverence, awareness, and trust in the natural flow of life. Even within moments of personal struggle, loss, or grief, Dionysus' presence can be deeply transformative. He does not shield mortals from sorrow. Instead, he guides them through it, revealing the hidden potential for renewal and insight that accompanies endings. Imagine a quiet glade at night, a lone villager sitting beneath an ancient oak, the soft rustle of leaves above blending with the distant murmur of water. In this serene stillness, the god's presence is felt as a gentle, comforting hum, a reminder that even the darkest moments contain the seeds of rebirth. Through this quiet influence, mortals learn that grief, reflection, and surrender are not signs of weakness but essential components of transformation, allowing the soul to emerge stronger, wiser, and more attuned to the rhythms of existence. Dionysus' connection to death and rebirth also emphasizes the interconnectedness of all living things. Rivers carry fallen leaves downstream, forests decay and renew themselves, and every creature participates in the cycles of birth, growth, decay, and renewal. Imagine standing at the edge of a quiet stream, the soft gurgle of water blending with the distant rustle of leaves, and sensing that every movement, every sound, and every breath is part of a larger, harmonious pattern. Dionysus teaches that understanding these patterns is key to navigating the complexities of life, and that by attuning to the natural cycles around us, we can find balance, clarity, and serenity even in moments of uncertainty or loss. Even the god's association with wine reflects this theme. Grapes are nurtured through careful growth, harvested at their peak, and transformed into wine, which is then shared, celebrated, and enjoyed. This process mirrors the cycles of life: careful preparation, temporary culmination, and transformation into something that nourishes and elevates those who partake. Imagine a quiet evening, the aroma of fermenting grapes drifting gently through the air, the soft hum of conversation, and the faint rhythm of drums in the distance. In this serene setting, wine becomes more than a drink. It is a symbol of life's cyclical nature, a gentle reminder that endings can be beautiful, beginnings can be subtle, and every moment contains the potential for transformation. Ultimately, the myths of Dionysus teach that the cycles of life, death, and rebirth are not to be feared but embraced. He guides mortals to perceive endings as gateways, losses as teachers, and transformation as a natural, integral, and even beautiful part of existence. Imagine the quiet forest settling into night, the soft rustle of leaves in the breeze, the faint glimmer of stars reflected in a calm pond, and the distant echo of flutes fading into the stillness. In this tranquil space, the presence of Dionysus is felt as a gentle, guiding force, reminding all who encounter him that life's richness arises from the continuous interplay of endings and beginnings, darkness and light, stillness and motion, teaching mortals to move gracefully with the eternal rhythms of existence. As the stories of Dionysus unfold, one cannot ignore his profound influence on human society, culture, and collective imagination. He is not merely a god of ecstasy and transformation, he is also a teacher of connection, guiding mortals to discover bonds between themselves, their communities, and the natural world. Imagine a quiet village at twilight, lanterns swaying gently in the breeze, the soft murmur of conversation blending with distant flute notes, and the subtle scent of wild grapes and herbs lingering in the air. In this serene, almost magical moment, Dionysus' presence is felt not through grand displays of power, but through quiet influence, inviting reflection, creativity, and connection among those who are open to his guidance. One of the god's most significant contributions to human culture is the arts. particularly theatre and storytelling. Myths depict him as a source of inspiration for poets, playwrights, and performers, encouraging them to explore the full spectrum of human experience: joy, grief, love, fear, and ecstasy. Picture a quiet amphitheater just before a performance, the sun dipping behind distant hills, casting soft golden light across stone seats, and a gentle breeze rustling through the trees. Actors and musicians prepare, their hearts aligned with the rhythm of their craft, guided by a subtle divine presence that inspires authenticity, depth, and emotional resonance. Through these cultural expressions, Dionysus teaches mortals that creativity is not just personal expression, but also a vehicle for shared experience, understanding, and transformation. Festivals and communal rituals play a central role in this process. These gatherings provide structured yet flexible spaces where individuals can connect, express, and explore the boundaries of ordinary life. Imagine a village square at dusk, villagers slowly gathering, soft lanterns glowing warmly, the faint beat of drums beginning to fill the air. As the rhythms deepen, participants begin to move, sing, and interact, not merely following a script but responding intuitively to one another, to the music, and to the natural rhythms of the night. In these moments, ordinary social roles fade into the background, replaced by a shared sense of belonging, creativity, and liberation. Dionysus teaches that connection is cultivated through participation, attentiveness, and openness to the subtle currents of energy and emotion within a community. Dionysus' influence extends beyond the arts and social structures to the very rhythms of daily life. Wine, ritual, and celebration offer both respite and reflection, helping mortals attune to cycles of work, rest, and renewal. Imagine a quiet vineyard at sunset, workers finishing their day with gentle laughter, soft music drifting from nearby homes, and the smell of ripe grapes blending with evening air. In these simple yet profound moments, the god's presence reminds mortals that the ordinary routines of life carry opportunities for connection, joy, and insight. By engaging with these rhythms mindfully, individuals learn to participate fully in life, finding subtle beauty and meaning in even the smallest details. The god's association with nature further enhances his role in fostering societal and cultural awareness. Forests, rivers, and vineyards become more than backdrops for human activity. They are active participants in the collective experience, reflecting moods, rhythms, and subtle transformations. Imagine a quiet glade, the soft murmur of a river blending with the rustle of leaves, the faint call of birds in the distance, and villagers moving gently through the space in ritual or play. In this environment, participants sense the interconnectedness of their actions, their emotions, and the world around them. Dionysus teaches that social harmony and cultural richness arise not only from human interaction, but also from attunement to the subtle currents of nature, perception, and emotion that bind communities together. Even the god stories of punishment or challenge carry lessons for society. Those who resist or disrespect Dionysus often experience confusion, disorientation, or disruption, reflecting the consequences of ignoring the natural rhythms of life and community. Imagine a city square where inhabitants, skeptical of the god's presence, find their usual routines subtly unsettled. Music drifts unexpectedly from distant courtyards, shadows shift, and a sense of unpredictability fills the air. These gentle disturbances are not arbitrary. They serve as reminders that human society flourishes when individuals remain open, respectful, and mindful of the balance between freedom and responsibility, individuality and collective harmony. Dionysus also cultivates empathy, allowing mortals to sense the emotions, intentions, and experiences of others more profoundly. Through shared rituals, dance, and music, individuals experience the feelings of joy, fear, sorrow, or ecstasy collectively, blurring the lines between self and other in subtle but transformative ways. Picture a quiet festival clearing under a moonlit sky, participants moving with flowing rhythms, sharing glances, gestures, and silent understandings. The gentle presence of Dionysus amplifies these connections, showing that true community arises not from rigid rules or enforced order, but from shared attention, shared creativity, and a mutual openness to experience. Ultimately, Dionysus' influence on human society and culture demonstrates that he is far more than a god of revelry. He embodies connection, shared creativity, and the quiet, transformative potential of communal life. Imagine the forest at night settling into stillness, lanterns softly dimming, the faint murmur of a river in the distance, and the echo of drums fading gently into the darkness. In this serene moment, the presence of Dionysus lingers subtly among mortals, a reminder that life's richness is amplified through connection, creativity, empathy, and attentiveness, and that the divine can be found not only in ritual or celebration, but also in the shared rhythms, joys, and subtleties of everyday human experience. As the stories of Dionysus draw to their final chapters, one of the most enduring lessons of his mythology emerges: the gentle, pervasive presence of the divine in ordinary life, and the quiet ways in which transformation, joy, and reflection can unfold even in the simplest moments. Dionysus does not rely solely on grand displays of power or dramatic interventions. Instead, his influence is woven subtly through music, ritual, dance, nature, and human emotion. Imagine a quiet vineyard at twilight, the sun dipping below distant hills, casting a warm, amber glow across the rows of vines. The air carries the faint fragrance of ripe grapes, and a gentle breeze stirs the leaves, creating a delicate, almost musical rustle. In this serene moment, the presence of Dionysus is not overwhelming, but gently pervasive, inviting a soft awareness of the rhythms and beauty of life. Central to this understanding is the god's ability to make ordinary experiences extraordinary. Whether through the subtle magic of wine, the quiet resonance of music, or the shared rhythm of movement in ritual, Dionysus elevates the mundane into something meaningful and memorable. Picture a quiet evening in a village square, a few villagers seated under the soft glow of lanterns, sharing a cup of wine, listening to the faint, harmonious strains of a flute. Each sip, each note, each glance carries a quiet lesson. Life is filled with subtle joys and hidden connections, waiting to be noticed and appreciated. Dionysus teaches that the divine is not always found in spectacle or chaos, but often in the gentle unfolding of ordinary moments, experienced with attentiveness and openness. His mythology also emphasizes the importance of personal reflection and introspection. The god often invites mortals to explore their inner lives, to confront hidden fears, desires, and potentials, and to emerge with a deeper understanding of themselves. Imagine a quiet glade at dusk, the soft rustle of leaves blending with the faint hum of a stream nearby. A villager sits alone, eyes closed, sensing the subtle vibrations of nature around them, feeling the gentle expansion of thought and emotion. In these moments of contemplation, Dionysus' influence becomes apparent. The ordinary act of sitting quietly in nature transforms into a profound exercise in self-awareness, insight, and emotional release. The god's teachings also extend to creativity, joy, and the gentle surrender of control. Through wine, dance, and music, mortals experience the subtle liberation of spirit, discovering that inspiration often arises when habitual boundaries are loosened. Imagine a quiet forest clearing at twilight, maenads moving gracefully through the shadows, the faint cadence of drums echoing softly among the trees, and a gentle wind carrying the sweet scent of wild herbs. Villagers follow these rhythms slowly and deliberately, letting go of rigid routines and preconceptions, allowing new insights and emotions to emerge naturally. Dionysus shows that joy, creativity, and personal growth are cultivated not through force, but through surrender, awareness, and gentle engagement with the currents of life. Even the god's association with madness and ecstasy finds its place in these quieter, reflective moments. Altered states of perception, whether through ritual, music, or contemplation, offer not only excitement and liberation, but also profound insight into the interconnectedness of self, community, and nature. Imagine a still night, the moon rising above distant hills, casting silver light across a vineyard, and the faint echo of flutes and drums fading into the distance. In this serene space, mortals sense a subtle expansion of awareness. Ordinary sights, sounds, and sensations are imbued with deeper meaning, and the boundaries between self, nature, and divine presence soften. Dionysus teaches that true understanding, creativity, and transformation often arise in these liminal spaces between ordinary perception and heightened awareness. His influence also reminds mortals of the cyclical nature of life. Growth and decay, joy and sorrow, endings and beginnings, are all part of the larger flow of existence. Imagine walking through a quiet vineyard at night, the soft crunch of leaves beneath one's feet, the faint smell of fermenting grapes carried on the breeze, and the subtle shimmer of stars above. In this reflective moment, one senses the eternal rhythms that govern life, the unseen connections that bind moments together, and the quiet power of the divine to guide, nurture, and inspire. Dionysus shows that even the smallest, simplest experiences carry the potential for insight, growth, and renewal. Finally, the god's mythology encourages mortals to embrace life with curiosity, attentiveness, and gentle courage. He embodies the delicate balance between freedom and structure, ecstasy and mindfulness, joy and reflection. Picture a quiet forest at night, the gentle rustle of leaves, the distant murmur of a stream, and the soft glow of the moon illuminating the path ahead. In this tranquil setting, Dionysus' presence serves as a reminder that life is rich, layered, and filled with subtle wonders, and that by engaging with it fully and attentively, one discovers both joy and wisdom, liberation and insight. Ultimately, Dionysus teaches that the extraordinary is woven into the fabric of the ordinary, that transformation, creativity, and joy can be found in subtle, everyday moments, and that the divine flows gently through life when one is open to its presence. Imagine the quiet forest settling into stillness, the faint rustle of leaves carried on a gentle breeze, and the distant echo of flutes fading into night. In this calm, immersive space, one senses the enduring legacy of Dionysus, a gentle, pervasive influence that transforms ordinary experience into something extraordinary, leaving mortals with a soft, enduring sense of wonder, connection, and quiet serenity. As we reach the final stretch of our journey through the mythology of Dionysus, it is worth pausing to reflect on what we have uncovered. His story is not a simple tale of triumph or chaos, nor a straightforward recounting of a god's adventures. Instead, it is a layered, complex narrative, one that shifts between beauty and terror, order and disarray, mortality and divinity. At its heart, the mythology of Dionysus asks us to consider what it means to be human, fragile yet resilient, bound by rules yet yearning for freedom, rooted in the ordinary yet constantly reaching toward the transcendent. Imagine, for a moment, a quiet night under a star-filled sky. The air is cool, the sound of crickets hums softly in the distance, and the faint breeze carries the smell of earth, vines, and ripening fruit. In such a still moment, one might feel the lingering presence of Dionysus, not in the form of revelry or frenzy, but as a gentle whisper reminding us of life's depth and complexity. His lessons are not confined to grand festivals or ecstatic rituals. They live in these serene, reflective spaces where one recognizes that every breath, every thought, and every connection is touched by something greater. Looking back across his myths, we see how Dionysus embodies contrast. He is both nurturer and destroyer, a bringer of joy and terror, a symbol of liberation and madness alike. Yet these contradictions are not meant to confuse us. Instead, they mirror the contradictions within our own lives. Human beings, too, live between extremes. We celebrate and we grieve, we create and we destroy, we cling to stability even as we long for change. Dionysus simply reveals this truth in a heightened, mythological form, reminding us that life is not a straight path, but a weaving of opposites, a dance between opposing forces that can, at times, feel overwhelming. But what do these contradictions mean for us as listeners, especially here, in this quiet, calming moment as we allow the story to settle in our minds? They encourage us not to shy away from the parts of life that are uncomfortable or unpredictable. Dionysus tells us that madness, grief, or chaos are not foreign intrusions into human existence, they are integral parts of the whole. To deny them, to repress them entirely, is to risk becoming like those figures in his myths who resisted the god and fell into disarray. Instead, we are invited to acknowledge the full spectrum of our experience, to find joy not only in moments of laughter and creativity, but also in the deeper understanding that comes from facing our struggles honestly. His myths also remind us of the importance of community and connection. The festivals of Dionysus, whether held in grand amphitheaters or humble village squares, were never solitary experiences. They were about gathering, about dissolving boundaries between individuals, about feeling something larger than oneself through dance, music, and ritual. Picture a gathering under the soft glow of lanterns, villagers seated shoulder to shoulder, sharing stories, laughter, and simple food. The warmth of human connection, the sharing of burdens and joys alike, these are subtle but profound reflections of Dionysus' gift. He is not only a god of wine, he is a god of shared experience, of the recognition that we are never truly alone when we open ourselves to others. At the same time, Dionysus teaches us to look inward. His stories often bring mortals face to face with their hidden fears, desires, and contradictions. Through encounters with him, individuals are stripped of illusions and forced to confront who they truly are beneath the surface. Though such moments may appear frightening, they also hold the seed of transformation. Think of a mirror in a quiet room, candlelight flickering softly against its surface. When one gazes into it, one might not only see a reflection of the face, but a suggestion of something deeper, the unseen emotions, the forgotten hopes, the truths waiting to be acknowledged. This is the gift of Dionysus, to lead us gently, if sometimes unsettlingly, toward a fuller awareness of ourselves. The mythology of Dionysus is also, in many ways, a meditation on mortality. Wine, which he gives to humanity, is both a reminder of life's pleasures and a symbol of life's fleeting nature. A cup of wine can bring joy, connection, and even transcendence, but it also empties quickly, reminding us of impermanence. Imagine lifting a glass under the stars, the surface reflecting moonlight, then slowly watching it drain with each sip. In this simple act lies the truth of existence, that beauty, joy, and experience are transient, and that their impermanence is what gives them value. Dionysus does not encourage us to despair at this truth. Rather, he invites us to savor each moment fully, to drink deeply of life while we can. And yet, he is not only about endings. Dionysus also embodies renewal. Grapes ripen, are crushed, and become wine. The vine withers, then grows again in spring. The cycles of death and rebirth are inscribed into his mythology as they are into the rhythms of nature. He reminds us that while every joy fades, new joys will come. While every season ends, another will follow. Life is not a single, unbroken line but a series of cycles, each with its own gifts, each with its own lessons. To sit with Dionysus, metaphorically, is to accept that endings and beginnings are part of the same whole, and that nothing is ever truly lost. In this final reflection, it is also important to acknowledge the softer, gentler side of Dionysus. Though often remembered for frenzy and madness, his myths also describe him as a god of compassion, one who comforts the suffering and offers solace to those who feel out of place in the world. He gathers the marginalized, the wanderers, the outsiders, and gives them a place of belonging in his rituals. This aspect of Dionysus speaks powerfully to anyone who has ever felt excluded or misunderstood. Imagine a weary traveler arriving at a festival, uncertain and alone, only to be welcomed with warmth, music, and shared food. The relief of finding a place, the joy of being seen and accepted, this, too, is Dionysus' gift. And so, as we bring our long journey to a close, let us settle once more into the quiet of night. The air is cool, the stars stretch endlessly above, and the world itself seems to breathe in slow, gentle rhythms. The story of Dionysus lingers not as a distant myth, but as a living reminder that life is complex, filled with contradictions, fleeting yet beautiful, difficult yet deeply rewarding. He reminds us that to live fully is to embrace the whole spectrum, to find joy in celebration, to learn from sorrow, to open ourselves to community, and to listen to the quiet whispers of the divine in our everyday lives. As you drift deeper into rest, let Dionysus' lessons settle softly in your mind. Remember that joy can be found in simplicity, that transformation often arises from chaos, and that even in the most ordinary moments, something extraordinary waits to be discovered. The god of wine, ecstasy, and transformation does not demand constant revelry or grand gestures. Instead, he invites you to notice the small miracles of being alive, the subtle connections that bind us to one another, and the rhythms that move through all things. So now, with the story complete, let the echoes of drums and flutes fade into the night. Let the vines rest in the moonlight, the rivers murmur softly in the distance, and the forest sigh gently with the evening breeze. Dionysus' presence remains, not loud or overwhelming, but quiet and steady, like a heartbeat within the fabric of the world. And as you close your eyes, you may feel a gentle peace, knowing that his story, strange, beautiful, and at times unsettling, was not only about gods and myths, but about you, about all of us, and about the timeless truth that life itself, in all its messiness and wonder, is sacred.